Part 28. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 272. The feedback of light to the brain through the eyeballs will be automatically processed by the brain. This is beauty in the eye of the beholder. In Lu Chang'an's eyes, Nuan is naturally more beautiful. Even if he also cares about the sense of ritual, he is more willing to cooperate with Nuan. And if it was Bai Hui, he would only give advice to the dancing master. The human brain is so interesting, so many people look at themselves in the mirror and feel that they are barely handsome, but they must clearly realize that in the eyes of others, they are probably a lower grade. This is why many people are confused. I am obviously very handsome, why do I go to chat with a pretty girl, but she is not happy? Nowadays, many people not only consciously beautify themselves, but also use beauty software to beautify themselves. The most intolerable thing is that when logging into the payment software and selecting face recognition, they are not willing to take a second look at the appearance displayed at that time. The face recognition system is the most honest camera software and will not give you any beauty algorithm processing. Lu Chang'an added a layer of halo to Nuan's consciousness, the kind where the misty rain falls behind her and light shines on her back, exuding a dreamy feeling. Come here. When the rain subsides, Lu Chang'an pulled Nuan to the stairs and stood there. You don't need to line up to go on a date with me, why don't you come early and make an appointment early? You have a beautiful idea, Nuan said angrily. If there is a little vixen who gets here earlier than me, I will use my peachwood sword one by one. I haven't given you the peachwood sword yet. I have my own magic power. Nuan stretched out two fingers and poked at the raindrops falling on the eaves. I suddenly feel weak, give me some magic power and save me. How can I give it to you? Nuan chuckled. Just like the male and female protagonists in martial arts dramas passing on their skills. Nuan gave him a fist, her cheeks turned red with embarrassment. Could there be any other hints when he talked nonsense like this on Valentine's Day? Of course Lu Chang'an didn't. He just looked at the two bags she was holding and asked, what's in them? Nuan quickly covered the mouth of the bag to prevent him from peeking. Go to the room first. Nuan pointed to the utility room next to her. I moved back. Lu Chang'an pointed to his head. Nuan was a little curious and looking forward to it. When she and Lu Chang'an walked in, they found that the house had not been finished yet and was empty, so she became even more excited. She had a strong desire to preside over the decoration style and furniture placement of Lu Chang'an's house. Nuan put down her umbrella and looked around, and finally came to the balcony. There was no doubt that this was the only place that Lu Chang'an had looked like so far. It feels so good here, Nuan praised. The ground is made of dark red sand, surrounded by flowers and plants. The lounge chair is very comfortable on it. Everything is green everywhere, and fine raindrops are pattering on the sycamore leaves. There was a sound, and as soon as I stretched out my hand, I touched the coolness of early autumn. This is where I think about life. Lu Chang'an nodded. Nuan couldn't help but laugh. Isn't Lu Chang'an's life easy to live with? This kind of life is the least need to think about. Lu Chang'an focused again on the bag held by Nuan. I brought the Cheongsam, Nuan said with some embarrassment. Girls often show some reserve when taking the initiative to please the other person, and they also look forward to his reaction. No wonder I didn't tie a ponytail today, but why don't you give it a try? In fact, Cheongsam does not necessarily have to be a mature look. Girls and Cheongsam can also go well together, especially the style that was originally designed for you, with a round head and long hair hanging below the ears. Ponytail is fine. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said. It's nice to have a boyfriend who can give you advice on how to dress. Nuan is also a little eager to try it. She actually imitates her mother's temperament unconsciously when she wears a cheongsam. Then let's change together. Nuan handed a bag to Lu Chang'an. What? Lu Chang'an took it and opened it to see that there were several pieces in pieces. I told you before that if you give me clothes, What kind of gift you can get in return depends on your performance. And Nuan coughed lightly, her eyes moved, and she tried to keep her tone very normal. It depends on your performance. Not bad, I just made some clothes for you. Just made some clothes, Lu Chang'an laughed. This kind of workmanship is definitely not something you, a novice, can do casually. Who said I'm a novice? And Nuan blushed, I just do it casually. Did you have a summer vacation? Lu Chang'an just smiled and looked at Nuan's red face. And Nuan hesitated twice. Seeing the tenderness in Lu Chang'an's eyes, she finally lost her reserve. She was also sure that the gift she gave him did not disappoint him. Then she relaxed and acted coquettishly, look, my fingers were pricked by needles, so many hits. Lu Chang'an took her finger and looked at it. It turned out that it was like a novice who had just learned needlework for a while and poked some small holes, and the fingertips were red. Lu Chang'an took her finger and put it in his mouth and sucked it gently. And Nuan was so embarrassed because she felt her fingertips touching his tongue. Why did this person suddenly do obscene things? In modern people's minds, finger licking is a very erotic action, whether it is licking one's own while looking at others, or licking someone else's and looking at others. It's better, Lu Chang'an said calmly. And Nuan wrinkled her nose and looked at her fingers in confusion. Her fingers were swollen and painful after being poked many times due to rushing to work, but they actually felt cool and comfortable. Does saliva still have this effect? And Nuan said in surprise. Lu Yuwang taught Nuan since she was a child to use band-aids when injured. Injuries during exercise are common, and Nuan always puts them on immediately. Band-aid, no saliva applied. Of course, it contains my essence. Jingyuan, you're so big, and Nuan said angrily, but she couldn't help but think of the way he would run up to her and hold her finger in his mouth when she injured her finger while playing ball on the university campus. Oh, I'm so shy. But there is no way to resist. What are you thinking about? Lu Chang'an looked at Nuan's shy and happy expression and didn't know what he was thinking. It's nothing, and Nuan looked around and didn't look at Lu Chang'an. Actually, it was mainly my mother who helped me a lot. She taught me. If I had taught myself and made it in one summer vacation, I would definitely not dare to give it to you. Where? Okay, you go to the bathroom to change, and I'll just change in the living room. Lu Chang'an pointed in the direction of the bathroom. And Nuan nodded expectantly and shyly, and ran to the bathroom. The first time I changed clothes at Lu Chang'an's house, although I didn't imagine or develop any strange things, I always felt something special. And Nuan touched her cheek and felt a little nervous. Would he come to take a peek? In some stories, the bathroom door of the hero's house has some gaps, and Nuan couldn't help but look back and saw that there seemed to be no gaps, and it was impossible for Lu Chang'an to do such a thing. In the past, when he was in the school locker room, he would often wait for her outside. I don't know if he had ever imagined her changing clothes. And Nuan stamped her feet. Really, today is just Valentine's Day. How could she be like this? I like to think wildly and go crazy. And Nuan tried a bun and found that it didn't suit her very well, so she combed two ponytails in a simple style and tidied her bangs. Fortunately, it rained today and the temperature was not too high. After walking for a while, her bangs were not greasy. After changing into a cheongsam, and Nuan looked at herself again. She was indeed Lu Yuwang's daughter. Are you okay? And Nuan had the urge to run out and scare Lu Chang'an. It would be more fun if she could see his naked butt running around and hiding, but she still held back. Today is Valentine's Day, so such playfulness is still hold it for now. All right. And Nuan then walked out, with a kind of shyness in her eyebrows. She raised her eyebrows and glanced at Lu Chang'an, and couldn't help being a little surprised. You turned out to be so handsome, so good looking. And Nuan was very surprised and stuttered. Look at your potential, come on, scream, cry, and roll on your knees in disbelief, How can such a handsome man be my boyfriend? This must be a dream. I don't want to wake up. I want to sleep so hard that I can't afford it. Lu Chang'an smiled and reached out to flick En Nuan's forehead. Disgusting, En Nuan had long been used to Lu Chang'an's teasing. She moved his fingers away and looked at him again. He usually dressed very casually. It turned out that En Nuan felt that he had such a personality. Dressing like that really made her eyes shine today. It seemed that she had never seen anyone wearing Chinese-style and ancient-style clothes in such a natural and unpretentious way. He is not the kind of handsome man with delicate raised eyebrows in ancient costume romance dramas, nor does he feel self-satisfied with the heavy and connotative self-satisfaction when wearing hanfu. To him, this is a kind of clothing that can blend into the world and will not make people feel uncomfortable. This person is so strange. Why is this person wearing ancient clothes? Why is he so public? Is this person trying to get attention? I also prepared a gift for you. Lu Chang'an opened the umbrella En Nuan brought and hung it to dry in the living room, and gave En Nuan the oil paper umbrella he made. En Nuan opened the umbrella in surprise. She found that the color of the umbrella actually matched the color of her dress, especially the words engraved on the umbrella handle, which were colored with dark gold dye. It starts with a heartbeat and ends with a white head. If you embrace it, you will feel safe, and if you accompany it, you will feel warm. I'm making a cheongsam for you. It happened to rain on the day I went to buy the fabric, so I thought of giving you an umbrella. The meaning is very tacky. I just hope that it can protect you from the wind and rain for me. Lu Chang'an didn't prepare any special words, so he is talking about his wishes and attempts. Today is the first Chinese Valentine's Day that we have spent together. I hope that this umbrella will still be with you and me on the 100th Chinese Valentine's Day. You will definitely be with me by then, as beautiful as it is today. I will, even if I become an old lady, you will definitely think that I am beautiful, right? En Nuan cried and threw herself into her arms. Lu Chang'an's love words were obviously ordinary, but they made En Nuan feel good. The sweetness is sour. I just want to be with him under this umbrella, and 100 years will pass in an instant. When you become a grandma, I will help you cross the road. Lu Chang'an smiled and hugged En Nuan, patting her back gently. Disgusting, En Nuan scolded with laughter and tears. The atmosphere was good, but he still wanted to say strange things. Let's go. Where to go? Have no idea. Then just go. Lu Chang'an changed his shoes and did not bring an extra umbrella. En Nuan did not remind him that this umbrella was larger than the small umbrella used by girls, but it was not very big. If he wanted to avoid getting wet, he had to put his arm around her shoulders and hold her in his arms while walking, so that the outside of their shoulders wouldn't get wet easily from the rain. Walking up the short steps from upstairs to downstairs, En Nuan felt that her heart was beating very fast, and the thumping sound disturbed her from following Lu Chang'an. The air was very humid, and raindrops were pattering at the end of the steps. The shallow puddles reflected the sky, sycamores, and eaves. En Nuan tried her best to act as if nothing had happened, and reached out to hold Lu Chang'an's arm. Etc. Lu Chang'an took half a step forward and was pulled back down the steps by En Nuan. How? Lu Chang'an's eyes were confused, and En Nuan's pupils were trembling in her eye sockets. She held the umbrella high and quietly stood on her tiptoes. The little bit of standing on tiptoes seemed to have to overcome the gravitational pull of the spaceship leaving the Earth. Exhausted all Anuan's efforts, she listened to the sound of rain, put down his arm, raised her hand to press her chest, and stopped breathing. The weather at this moment was just right, moist and clinging. En Nuan's heels were raised at just the right distance. Her fists clenched and unclenched, grabbing his long sleeves. Her body leaned forward slightly, in his arms. She didn't have time to close her eyes, so she could just catch a glimpse of his tenderness and love. I should have taken the initiative, I'm sorry. Lu Chang'an was not greedy for long and took the umbrella held high in her hand. No. It's okay. It took a long time for Nuan to open her lips. She was so nervous that she didn't even know how to breathe, and her heart was beating like thunder. Only then did she realize that since she was so nervous just now, why was she so determined? He had to take the initiative to do this. Fortunately, he didn't think she was too casual or reserved. Such worries are absurd in modern concepts, but in love, it is inevitable to worry about gains and losses. Nuan held his arm again, and under the umbrella he raised, it seemed that the feeling was different again. Was it just kissing? Is it the beginning of another stage of love? Nuan turned to look at him, looked at his face, looked at the umbrella he was holding, looked at the 12 words on the umbrella handle. Her heart felt sweet. It turned out that the first kiss was the most wonderful feeling in the world. What an electric shock! Ah, so numb, so blank. The descriptions in romance novels are simply not enough. Sorry, I thought I was feeling better, so I asked for an extra monthly ticket. I had a toothache tonight and my face was swollen, so I couldn't get an anti-inflammatory shot, because the monthly ticket has exceeded 2,900, although it has not reached 2,950, but in order to express my feelings, sorry, there will definitely be a 4-in-1 explosion tomorrow. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 273. The season of beginning of autumn has long passed. There is a folk saying that the cool breeze arrives on the 3rd day of beginning of autumn. There is also a saying of 18 heavens and earth fires, and there is also a saying of autumn tiger. In short, the real coolness in Juncha will have to wait until at least September around the white dew. It's raining today, but it's really cool. There's autumn rain and cold. Maybe tomorrow's sunny weather will be milder and more comfortable than in the past. Sometimes big typhoons enter the interior and reach the vicinity of Juncha, which means some cool wind and rain can also cool down the hot weather. Juncha is really a good place in terms of living with peace of mind. Lu Chang'an remembered that in the early 1980s and 1990s, there was a large river passing through the county, and it was also close to a large lake. Every summer, all the news was about flood control, which made people very worried. After the dam upstream was built, what did others do? Disputes. Older Juncha or Shonan people have realized that there are very few flood fighting news during the summer vacation. No one is worried about the rising river water that is being prepared every year, and the school does not need to receive thousands of flood fighting warriors. Paving the floor in the playground or gymnasium. A rain is a city's self-cleansing. There is always a magical magnetic field in the rain, which makes people think a lot. Lu Chang'an came to his senses. When he is with real friends, the most comfortable feeling is often to be alone in a daze without feeling uncomfortable. After he comes to his senses, he can continue the conversation with the original topic. He never has to worry about whether his words are appropriate or unintentional. There is a thorn in the middle. The same goes for being with Nuan. Bai Hui also asked me if we had any plans today. I told her seriously that we don't need to make any deliberate arrangements. As long as lovers are together, they will naturally know where to go when we get together, but now I really don't know where to go, but I feel like I've been slapped in the face. Lu Chang'an looked thoughtful and embarrassed. Nuan didn't feel this way. Her arrangement today was to give gifts to Lu Chang'an, and she was looking forward to the gifts Lu Chang'an prepared for herself. Who knew there would be an unexpected gain, or it couldn't be said to be a gain. In short, she was very happy. As for it doesn't matter where we go next. As Lu Chang'an said, it's good to be together, and everyone you pass by will see a different kind of scenery. But there is another question, and Nuan became serious. I think she wants to sabotage her inquiring like this. For example, if we talk about going to the movies, she will ask you which movie and where to watch, and then wait for us to arrive. When you sit down in the cinema, you will meet a girl with a face full of surprise, running over and saying, "Oh, what a coincidence, I also bought a ticket for this show, let's sit together." Oh, it turns out that girls can make up a play with just one sentence. Lu Chang'an nodded in admiration. And Nuan snorted to express his dissatisfaction with Lu Chang'an's disapproving attitude. As a boy, he would never have thought that it was so normal for a girl to do this. If Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui had to participate in any activities together, and Nuan would she just happen to be free? If she didn't do this, why would she lie on the floor at home and roll around in agony while imagining their time together? It would be better to be a light bulb. Then why is she asking you? Doesn't she have a date? Yes, Miao Yingying seems to have gone to school, Qian Ning is still in Junxia, and Lu Yuan has also gone to school, but Bai Hui recently played with her cousin. There are a lot of them. I looked at her posts on Moments and Space. Her cousin travels abroad a lot and Nuan was still thinking about this issue seriously. Lu Chang'an smiled, he really cared about others. She also comes to my space for free. Once I saw her peeking into my space, I immediately went to her space and liked it to show that I knew she had been there. But guess what? She started by becoming a Yellow Diamond member. She can hide the traces of her visits, and Nuan looked well aware of it. Lu Chang'an took out his cell phone, and Nuan pressed his hand with a blushing face. Lu Chang'an nodded, got it, no need to read, there is no doubt that Nuan has also opened a Yellow Diamond membership. Easy. You are not allowed to talk about me, only about her. Why? Because I am your girlfriend and she is not. That makes sense. Certainly. A gust of wind blew past, and the raindrops were thin and sloping. Lu Chang'an hugged Nuan's shoulders tightly and held her half in his arms to prevent the outside of their shoulders from getting wet. And Nuan raised her head and glanced at Lu Chang'an, leaning her cheek against him. It felt so magical. Generally, boys grow very slowly at the age of 18. In the past 2 months, Lu Chang'an actually grew taller to better match her height. A few centimeters higher, this must be the power of love. But compared with a short girl like Bai Hui, wouldn't she be a little cute enough? It is said that boys are not immune to girls who are cute, soft, and like toys. For example, what is the cutest height difference? Isn't Lu Chang'an taller than Bai Hui by a full head? I wonder if Bai Hui will grow taller if he learns Lu Chang'an's seedling pulling technique. If Bai Hui also grew much taller, then she and he would not have many attractive qualities. Is it useful for your girl to learn the art of pulling out seedlings? And Nuan asked, rubbing his neck. It's somewhat useful. Just ask Zhang Dao. She learned it from me. She learned in a messy way. She just messed around for a few days and then stopped persisting. You want to learn? Yeah. Then I'll teach you when I have time. Lu Chang'an looked at Nuan with some suspicion. Nuan turned her head away and raised the corners of her mouth slightly. Even though she and Lu Chang'an had a tacit understanding, he was not a bug in her belly after all. How could he expect that the girl's mind would be all over the place? The two of them walked and entered the shopping mall on the podium of Bailong Center. The business atmosphere of Valentine's Day has always been extremely strong. Top luxury brands still refuse to let go. The most they did was some afternoon tea activities, and members were invited to the store. Have a drink and eat in the house, teach the children to do some handicrafts, etc., but most ordinary brands still show a certain degree of sincerity. They say that online shopping makes it difficult for physical stores to do business, but in fact, with high consumption power, many brands targeting women, including middle-aged women, are still living a very comfortable life. Their target consumers do not care much about cost performance, but are beginning to pursue consumer experience and services. For example, Ms. Lu Yuang. Nuan and Lu Yuang went out together. The mother and daughter parted ways in Mayday Square. Nuan wanted to see Lu Chang'an. Lu Yuang made an appointment with friends for morning tea, and then went to Bailong Center to buy clothes. The woman was alive. If you don't buy clothes, what's the point of life? Autumn is here, and the favorite silk scarves of middle-aged women are in season again. The most anticipated scarves in the Bailong Center are of course the Hermes scarves. En Nuan looked at her mother and friends, and 5 or 6 women crowded in. After entering the store, he took Lu Chang'an and left quickly. Don't you say hello, Lu Chang'an felt that this was too impolite. Definitely no. In this case, when a group of your mother's friends see you and your boyfriend together, they will naturally praise us for our talents and looks. Don't you want to feel this shameful and joyful feeling like offering a treasure, Lu Chang'an suggested. En Nuan didn't expect this. She felt, it seemed really irresistible. En Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an's half-smiling expression, stamped her feet, and pulled Lu Chang'an away with determination. Do you think we will be like this when we are their age? Even on Chinese Valentine's Day, we don't have husbands to accompany us, so we can only go out together as a group of sisters, and Nuan was a little worried about what would happen at least 20 years later. The feeling of being with your lover is irreplaceable, and the feeling of being with your friends is different. Your lover should not occupy the whole life of the other person. You see them now as sisters having fun together. Maybe you didn't see it. By the time they arrive, they have already had a romantic date with their husbands. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Girls are girls after all, and they are sentimental, just like today's raindrops, fluttering and not knowing where they will fall. For this reason, En Nuan did not dwell on this issue too much. She took Lu Chang'an and took the sightseeing elevator directly to the sculpture park on the top of the 7th floor. There are many sculptures based on small animals but with adult emotions. No one cares about what the author wants to say. The feeling of looking at the whole city from here is different. Unlike the top floor of Bailong Center where you can see the whole city at your feet, it seems like the whole city has been cut into pieces. Many buildings stand in half. Not far away, the lingering mist and rain had a different feeling. Some tourists took photos with the sculptures under umbrellas. Little girl, young man, you are so beautiful, can I take a photo with you? A middle-aged woman's smile showed her gums. She looked very appreciative and said expectantly, "Thank you, that's okay." And Nuan smiled reservedly and nodded. Lu Chang'an naturally had no objection. The middle-aged aunt actually stood between Lu Chang'an and En Nuan. After taking the photo, she immediately went to the side with her friends to post on WeChat moments. Someone probably started or misunderstood that Lu Chang'an and En Nuan's clothes were for some kind of event. Costumes, such as less everyday attire at Comic-Con, will result in requests for photos, and the recipients will usually be happy to. Even though En Nuan was in a particularly gentle mood today, after dealing with several waves of people, she finally pulled Lu Chang'an and fled. Are we that good looking? En Nuan asked sheepishly. The main thing is that you are good looking. Lu Chang'an looked at En Nuan and said with certainty. You look good in old-fashioned clothes. When they look at you, they think of a girl like Lilac. You. Okay, stop flattering each other, I'm getting goosebumps. Hate. The two people came down from the rooftop of the 7th floor, saw the cinema on the 6th floor, and decided to watch 100,000 Jokes 2, which happened to be released 10 days ago. En Nuan bought tickets on her mobile phone and found that only 2 tickets had been sold for the latest show, and the person who bought the tickets was very strange. She actually bought the 2 corner seats in the first row, but some people, that's it. I feel like there aren't many people there anyway, and it almost feels like a reserved place. It's the same wherever you sit. There were fewer people in the morning session. There were many more staff in the cinema than moviegoers. The salesperson selling snacks at the entrance were not at work. Lu Chang'an and En Nuan checked in and bought food at another selling point under the escalator. You too, we have a couple's package today. A large portion of popcorn, 2 bottles of Suntory soda, and a rose. It's only 77 yuan. The salesperson actively promoted it. En Nuan couldn't resist the couple's package, but still asked Lu Chang'an for his opinion. What a deal. Normally popcorn and a bottle of soda cost 58. Well, it's a good deal. Lu Chang'an agreed. The two of them bought a package, and after entering the screening room, they saw two people sitting in the two seats in the first row next to the entrance passage. "You really are sitting here, wait," and Nuan was stunned. It was Bai Hui and her cousin. Bai Hui was looking at the same dumbfounded expression as in Nuan, but Bai Hui was still holding a few popcorn in her hand and putting it in her mouth. Plug. Bai Hui remembered what Lu Chang'an said, that he could see her throat and stomach, and quickly closed her mouth. "Oh, what a coincidence. Did we buy tickets for the same show?" Bai Hui laughed in surprise. "Are you also here to watch 100,000 jokes too?" And Nuan nodded and looked back at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an said with his eyes, "Yes, you predicted it accurately, but the decision to watch the movie was made by you." And Nuan said with her eyes, "I knew it. I knew it. I knew it." Lu Chang'an said with his eyes, "Okay, but why are you looking at me?" So Lu Chang'an pressed in Nuan's head and asked her to face the person she was talking to at this moment. Lu Chang'an smiled again as a greeting to Zhongqing. Zhongqing was looking at Lu Chang'an, and he was a little surprised. Women want to please their appearance, and men do the same. When he first met Lu Chang'an, if he was dressed like this, he probably wouldn't have bothered with what Zhe Huntang was looking for him. "Why are you sitting here? You can't see from here," and Nuan smiled, and she predicted what Bai Hui was going to say next. "We bought random tickets. We will sit here first. When the show starts and no one comes in, we will change seats." Bai Hui stood up holding the popcorn. "Let's sit together." "Okay," and Nuan still smiled. "This is probably a natural enemy, an enemy that God will help." Lu Chang'an and Nuan were seated in seats 10 and 11 in the fifth row. Seat 11 was next to the aisle. Lu Chang'an consciously sat in seat 11 and Nuan sat in seat 10. This made her very satisfied. "If Bai Hui and Zhongqing, if you sit in seats 12 and 13, you will be across the aisle from Lu Chang'an. If you sit in seats 8 and 9, you will also be across the aisle from Nuan." Bai Hui didn't seem to think so much, and casually sat down on a seat across from Lu Chang'an. Isn't it understandable for people with normal emotional intelligence to sit together with Nuan and Lu Chang'an? It's such a bitch-like behavior to deliberately sit in the 10th seat. "I feel like it's just the four of us watching this scene," Zhongqing said while drinking juice. "That's pretty good," Bai Hui said. "It just feels like the air conditioner is turned on too much," and Nuan crossed her arms. Lu Chang'an didn't say anything, but reached out and hugged Nuan's arm. "Let's have dinner together later," Zhongqing suggested, and said to Nuan apologetically, "Last time I met Lu Chang'an and we had supper together. I was drunk, and Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui sent me back to the hotel together. We're all friends, as we should. You're welcome," and Nuan smiled calmly. Only then could Lu Chang'an feel her fingers poking his waist, turning her head and looking at him with eyes that said, "Separate from them," before explaining. Lu Chang'an still didn't speak, just nodded. Women have many things to do, think about and do many things. Lu Chang'an also tricked me into eating that sheep. Bai Hui couldn't say anything. Sheep, 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 and Nuan smiled. The four of them all laughed together. Bai Hui stopped talking, and the atmosphere was filled with a hint of awkward joy. The movie started and no one spoke. The three girls went to the bathroom together during the whole movie. Lu Chang'an watched it from beginning to end and cooperated very well with their laughter, contributing to the peripheral wave power of laughter contagion. After watching the movie, Zhongqing invited everyone to dinner and went to a Japanese buffet. For any buffet to be profitable, cost control is essential. It is impossible to use the best ingredients. No matter how expensive the buffet is, what you eat is not the exquisite delicacies of a single food category. It is suitable for big eaters and people who want to try everything and are too lazy to order. Zhongqing is actually a person who is very good at ordering food. That is her job. For example, Zhongqing looks at the menus prepared by several restaurant chefs before sending them to Zhu Huntang and the third wife. Therefore, when she is not working, Zhongqing doesn't like flipping through menus very much, and he doesn't have much experience at all, because even if the names of the food the two of them eat are exactly the same, the quality and taste may be the same as what you can easily eat outside. 398 yuan per person, a very down-to-earth price, with a variety of dishes, including steamed eggs with caviar, foie gras, French foie gras, and sea urchin. And Nuan prefers barbecue food and gave Lu Chang'an a suggestion. White fennel is also available. After ordering steak, this place was at least more upscale than the place where Lu Chang'an invited him to dinner last time. Zhongqing ordered 2 portions of pumpkin soup. "I hope you get your money back," Zhongqing said to Lu Chang'an with a smile. "No problem," Lu Chang'an nodded. "He is very good at eating," Bai Hui said, knowing Lu Chang'an's appetite well. "In school, when I went out to eat, I wasn't afraid that I wouldn't be able to finish the meal," and Nuan said with some reminiscence. "Bah, I gave the leftovers to Lu Chang'an, how dare I say that?" Bai Hui glanced at Nuan with a smile. "Well, I always gave Lu Chang'an meat and vegetables from the beginning, and I often drank more orange juice than he could finish." And Nuan smiled and nodded. Zhongqing looked at Bai Hui and Nuan, then drank tea with his head down from the porcelain cup. Lu Chang'an was already eating appetizers, green beans, kimchi, diced chicken, and smoked fish. When he is eating, he will eat seriously if he is not interested in talking about anything. "Next time let's take Zhou Dongdong to the buffet with us," and Nuan suddenly remembered, and Lu Chang'an said happily, "She can get it for free." The restaurant must not have thought that such a small child can eat so well. "Okay," Lu Chang'an nodded. If 100 Zhou Dongdong entered a cafeteria, the restaurant would go bankrupt. Zhou Dongdong, Bai Hui remembered that it was the stupid child and looked at Nan tentatively, and Nuan, "Do you like that child very much?" "Of course, Zhou Dongdong is fun, edible and cute." "Sometimes I feel like Lu Chang'an's sister," and Nuan took out her phone and found a photo of her and Zhou Dongdong. In the photo, and Nuan was posing behind him to adjust his expression. Zhou Dongdong tilted his head and brought his face closer to the camera. It looked like Zhou Dongdong's face was much bigger than Nuan's. Bai Hui didn't say much about her last experience with Zhou Dongdong. She was a little confused. Why didn't this child like her? This was probably the same reason Lu Chang'an liked Nuan but not herself, for some reason she didn't know. It rained on July 7th of the lunar calendar, and Bai Hui's heart suddenly started to rain. After lunch, Zhongqing wanted to go back to the hotel room for a lunch break. Bai Hui left with her, while Nuan and Lu Chang'an left Bailong Center to hang out. And Nuan could tell that Bai Hui was in a bad mood, so she didn't say anything to Lu Chang'an, because Bai Hui didn't comment on her and Lu Chang'an's clothes. The more she treated them as ordinary, the more she showed he cared, I guess. That's right, Bai Hui's mentality towards Lu Chang'an is indeed different now. Although it's not certain that Bai Hui will compete with Nuan for her boyfriend, girls will always pay attention to this aspect. In the afternoon, the two of us went for a walk around an old street, which satisfied our fresh feelings of old-fashioned humanity. We actually met Lu Yuwang and her friends in a silk scarf shop. As expected, women of this age are interested in all kinds of materials. I love silk scarves in different colors so much. No wonder you can see women taking photos with their hands holding up silk scarves in many scenic spots. Where does this hobby among middle-aged women come from? Were there any movie heroines or celebrities of their time who became famous because of photos of this pose, and which left a mark on their hearts? Lu Chang'an was not impressed, but these middle-aged women unsurprisingly blushed at Nuan's teasing, and even made jokes about young mothers-in-law and sons-in-law. As expected, the more women hugged each other, the more they had no bottom line and no consideration. It's nothing to say. In order to avoid further embarrassment for Nuan and Lu Yuwang, Lu Chang'an found a reason to leave first and made an appointment to report to school together at the beginning of the term. In comparison, Lu Yuang and her friends don't look like they are of the same age group. Many of them are probably several years older than her, and their daughter is only about the same age as An Nuan, and is not even as tall as An Nuan. Big, Liu Yuang is more like a flower among a green leaf. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan chatted all the way while walking back home. Today's festival was generally quite satisfactory. It was also the first time that he took the initiative to kiss a girl after many years. Lu Chang'an did not feel that it was ordinary. It was like countless waves in time, one after another being annihilated. Could it be that a new wave that is still blooming, can't it amaze the time? Back then, the monkeys began to mutate. If they all became parthenogenous, it would definitely not be as interesting as the current world, right? Lu Chang'an was thinking about all this. The rain had stopped a long time ago. He returned under the sycamore tree, with only scattered raindrops falling on his shoulders. Qin Yinan sent a message asking if he was at home. Lu Chang'an replied yes, and Qin Yinan said he would come to see him soon. In fact, it was Qin Yinan and Zhu Huntang who came to see him. Recently, Qin Yinan and Zhu Huntang often hang out day and night. It is normal for two people without boyfriends to be together on Valentine's Day. They also brought a bottle of glutinous rice wine to invite Lu Chang'an to drink. Your clothes are very chivalrous. Qin Yinan saw Lu Chang'an's clothes and quietly looked at Lu Chang'an, who was different from usual. This is not the Lu Chang'an that Qin Yinan is familiar with. Although his temperament still has the kind of fundamental that will not change, it is like a fried steak. The plating and side dishes are also very important. The knight dressed like this is definitely to seduce the heroine, that is the romantic temperament. The temperament of the knight has nothing to do with this kind of dress. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. Does the Kyushu Fenglai swordsman know? When this swordsman is doing chivalry, he doesn't dress very chicly. Then have you hooked up with the heroine? Zhu Huntang circled around Lu Chang'an, a little disgusted. The material is not very good, and the workmanship is average. This can be regarded as a costume with Chinese elements. Zhu Huntang himself owns a lot of finely crafted Ming Dynasty hanfu. One thing that is rare for Taiwan to be unified with the mainland is that they all believe that Guo Xingyi is a national hero. There are many ancestral temples and ancestral halls for Guo Xingyi. Based on this, he has a deep understanding of the people of the Guo Xingyi period. Some cultural costumes are widely circulated. Zhu Huntang first learned about things related to hanfu made in the Ming Dynasty from the activities commemorating Zheng Chenggong. The material is not very good, but someone cut it for me by hand. The workmanship is average, and it is also the care of every stitch. Lu Chang'an patted Zhu Huntang's forehead. What do you know? Just go and play. Zhu Huntang staggered, feeling that Lu Chang'an's slap was a little too hard, and hugged Qin Yinan dizzy. Yaya, he hit me. You need to be more sensible. He is wearing this on Chinese Valentine's Day today. It is obviously not a gift from his girlfriend, but it is also related to her. Aren't you asking for a beating by saying this? Qin Yinan smiled. This is really true for my uncle. She looks a bit like an old man, and he is extra protective of his little girlfriend. Many granddaughters of old men, or newly married daughters-in-law, do not tolerate other people's comments. The Kixi festival is amazing. Zhu Huntang slapped his arm, very unconvinced. I am a fairy just like Weaver Girl. The Weaver Girl has a cow herd. The most you can eat is a bowl of beef offal. Lu Chang'an dismissed it, but the beef offal is still very delicious. Add some radish or something, stew it in a pot in winter, it is very delicious. I thought you would say that she can only find a cow herd. After Qin Yinan finished speaking, she felt as if she had exposed something in front of Lu Chang'an. This was a dirty joke she and Zhu Huntang invented last night. So Qin Yinan laughed sheepishly. Zhu Huntang turned his gun and punched Qin Yinan's arm. After a while of commotion, Qin Yinan brought the table and poured glutinous rice wine. Lu Chang'an bought a few packs of fish tails from Aunt Xia and brought them to drink. Zhu Huntang was crying because the fish tail was so spicy in one bite. Qin Yinan was fine but refused to eat the second pack. Lu Chang'an ate it slowly by himself. Compared with Japanese food, the traditional Hunan spicy food is quite tasty. I want to discuss something with you, Qin Yinan said, putting down his rice bowl, because Lu Chang'an only brought 3 rice bowls to hold the wine without using a cup. Say Lu Chang'an grabbed a bowl and drank. Isn't Yaya invulnerable? I know you are almost the same, even if you don't allow Yaya to say, ha, hoo. Zhu Huntang rushed to speak, and Lu Chang'an took a piece of fishtail and stuffed it into Zhu Huntang's mouth. Zhu Huntang was so frightened that he quickly ran away and gasped. Lu Chang'an motioned to Qin Yinan to continue. I want to form a chivalrous alliance with you. Qin Yinan was slightly embarrassed, but looked at Lu Chang'an very seriously. She knew that this proposal must be beyond Lu Chang'an's expectations, and it was also a bit naive and immature. Lu Chang'an took a sip of wine and ate a bite of fishtail. You continue. My ideas are still a bit naive at the moment, but I want to make sure to organize it first, and then slowly establish our activity program. Maybe we have nothing to do, just a small group that keeps to itself, drinks tea and chats. Maybe we can do something. One day when we see something suitable for us to solve, we will show our strength. Qin Yinan pointed at Zhu Huntang. Currently, she and I are the ones joining our alliance. I hope you can join too. Lu Chang'an was actually not surprised by Qin Yinan's thoughts. Everyone who had just realized that they had superpowers would probably be a little ready to do something, even if she didn't know what she wanted to do at the time. People who are living in difficulty may first think about how to use their superpowers to change the current situation. Rich people may think about becoming more powerful, but there are always some people who will pursue something else. After all, she still originated from Yesijin. What he couldn't understand was that Zhu Huntang was brought in to make up some numbers. She didn't know how to do odd jobs. Zhu Huntang could only call people and call for a man in black in a van. Then this organization will develop into a social gang. First, I am a fairy. Second, I also have superpowers. Zhu Huntang didn't care about Lu Chang'an's suspicious eyes. Having money is not a superpower. Lu Chang'an shook his head. I can get good things that the army wants, Zhu Huntang said in a low voice, his cheeks slightly red. He didn't expect that Lu Chang'an would see through it, but this Lu Chang'an definitely didn't expect it. Xiong-san. Bah, my mother has opened high-level permissions to me. Some resources that I did not have permission to access and call before can now be used, such as some biotechnology products. Zhu Huntang was proud. Lu Chang'an frowned. Is there something wrong with the third wife's mind? Please give me monthly votes and recommend votes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 274. It is said that a starved camel is bigger than a horse, but if it is already very fat and other small dinosaurs grow into behemoths like Brontosaurus, this skinny camel will not have much meat on it. Even the neutral media reports on Taiwan in recent years seem like a gangster settlement. What's more, there are no neutral media in the first place. In short, it gives the impression that Taiwan are no longer good anywhere. The areas in which the Zhu family accounts for the vast majority of investment in mainland China are not much different from those of other Taiwanese businessmen. There are relatively few high-tech and specialized industries. This does not mean that it will not be of great help to the economic improvement here. It is just that times have changed, and it is not so rare. The Zhu family still has something that makes people jealous, and that is what Zhu Huntang said. Even the Taiwanese military couldn't get it, but the third wife began to let Zhu Huntang contact her. Is she really planning to start cultivating a successor to take over? If the third wife were an ordinary person, she would at least be able to personally control the Zhu family until she was 60 or 70 years old, which meant that Zhu Huntang should officially take over around the age of 40 or 50. If there is no external force to stimulate her growth, with Zhu Huntang's current fairy status, she has to be prepared to train her for decades before she can rest assured. After all, controlling such a huge group industry cannot really stay away from politics, which means to face a group of human beings, you can't just think that you are a fairy and you can do whatever you want. This is an analysis based on common sense. For example, Zhu Huntang wanted to give an example, but he hadn't learned about it yet and wasn't very clear. Anyway, it's very powerful, not to mention I'm really rich. Haven't you noticed that the Justice League has bats, man, the Avengers have a high-speed rail man. Rich people may not be necessary to do anything in this world, but if there is a leader of rich people, it will definitely be much smoother and more efficient. Qin Yinan nodded unconsciously. She accepted Zhu Huntang's point of view, otherwise she would not have brought Zhu Huntang with her. I've known you for so long, and I finally said something so stupid, Lu Chang'an said to Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang immediately raised her skirt proudly. But it's still stupid. Before the pride on Zhu Huntang's face disappeared, he looked at Lu Chang'an with a straight face. Whether it's the Justice League or the Avengers, the economic strength settings of the characters are based on the psychological implications of the traditional Western hypocritical instincts and class dominance requirements. What they hope is that no matter how capable and how powerful the poor are, they should all unite honestly around capitalists like Batman or Iron Man. Few people think about why every time the one who unites and leads the Justice League or the Avengers must be such a wealthy capitalist. What does this have to do with us? Zhu Huntang opened his mouth, and Lu Chang'an started talking again. However, Qin Yinan seemed to realize that after all, the growing environment was still very different. Whether it is intentional or not, their settings are beautifying some people, beguiling some people, and conveying psychological implications. Therefore, Americans' achievements in class consolidation and class control are truly unparalleled. Lu Chang'an, put down the bowl in your hand. We are different. What are the differences between us? Zhu Huntang was a little confused, feeling that the we in Lu Chang'an's mouth did not include her. In the knight-errant alliance formed by Qin Yinan and I, there is no need for us to unite around capitalists like you. Your rhetoric is only suitable for superheroes under the theories of Marvel and DC. For a proletarian like me who has a natural revolutionary stance, I feel it's very uncomfortable. If you want to join, you can only be a fat sheep and don't need your leadership. I'll be a fat sheep. Zhu Huntang nodded repeatedly. Lu Chang'an was unexpectedly blocked by Zhu Huntang. His original intention was to say that those superheroes are so powerful, but all of them are very poor. It is just a setting that has been imprinted. He and Qin Yinan have this ability. It is not difficult to obtain capital, and no financial support from Zhu Huntang is needed. Qin Yinan burst out laughing. It was rare to see Lu Chang'an fail to throw out a series of rhetoric before knocking people out and throwing them into the hole he dug. Lu Chang'an poured wine and drank. Anyway, you mean you are willing to join, right? Qin Yinan looked at Lu Chang'an with a smile. If you are going to be stupid, I can't just watch from the side. Lu Chang'an drank it all in one gulp. It was the same then and it is the same now. Qin Yinan's eyes were gentle. Although he knew that his words contained some affection related to the past, and more related to Yesijin, he could still feel the protective thoughts in them. Lu Chang'an has never been good at persuading others to change their decisions. He usually only decides how he should deal with the decisions made by others. There is adultery. Zhu Huntang's eyes glanced back and forth between Lu Chang'an and Qin Yinan. Even if Qin Yinan didn't say it clearly, Zhu Huntang had already determined that Lu Chang'an was Yechinayu, which meant that Lu Chang'an was actually Qin Yinan's uncle. But they were flirting. Oops, I couldn't stand it, it was so exciting. Zhu Huntang wanted to go back to his room and get under the quilt and roll around in fantasy. I'm raping you. Qin Yinan glanced at Lu Chang'an, who was as if nothing had happened, with a shy look on his face, and slapped Zhu Huntang to stop her from acting like that. I drank, and I punished myself with one drink, one bowl. Zhu Huntang couldn't wait to question Qin Yinan, but it turned out that he had never thought about this issue at all. Tonight, she must use her conscience to make her admit her intentions towards her uncle. Qin Yinan coughed and said seriously to Lu Chang'an, maybe you think it's silly and naive, but I was actually inspired by you. That's a good person who doesn't learn and is not serious. Of course Lu Chang'an knew that it was not very serious to beat Ma Weiming, but he didn't care. Why should a person be serious in life and use serious rules from the inside out? What attitude do you have to face the world? I was inspired after seeing you treat Ma Weiming like that. He was clearly harassing me and I was obviously unhappy, but I just made an indifferent gesture to hide my disgust. When you beat him, I feel very comfortable. It seems that this is the right way to handle it, maybe not the best way to handle it, but as far as personal feelings are concerned, this is the most correct way to handle it. Qin Yinan raised his hand and pressed his chest. I always feel that there is a will in my body that is willing to follow you and want to live like you. Did you gain a little fangirl? Lu Chang'an looked at Qin Yinan, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Just like the Qin state wanted to unify the 6 countries, Prince Dan found the most correct way to directly assassinate Yang Zheng without any nonsense. Zhu Huntang also looked deeply encouraged. You can't get over the episode where Jing Kai assassinated the king of Qin, right? You will mention this. Prince Dan is not the most correct way. If you kill Yang Zheng, Fusu will be in power. Do you think Fusu doesn't have the ability to unify the 6 countries? The Qin state stands on the will of history, and its trajectory is to crush it, Lu Chang'an said while looking at Zhu Huntang's rosy face. The little girl drank some wine, and her rosy cheeks looked better than usual. Lu Chang'an patted his head. Drinking too much wine can easily lead to illusions. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 275. A pot of glutinous rice wine is mainly drunk by Lu Chang'an. It is not as rough and strong as the Red Star Urquatu that he often drinks. After drinking a few bowls, you don't even feel how much you have drunk. The fuzzy and comfortable feeling is quite enjoyable. Lu Chang'an has a strong ability to control his body, but of course he would not deliberately control his body to react in this way, otherwise he would not live like an ordinary person who can live without leaving a trace. All the poisons in the world have no effect on Lu Chang'an. The body will instinctively resist the erosion and damage of poisons, but alcohol is different. It will only make Lu Chang'an more relaxed, and the body will naturally not instinctively resist. Unless he deliberately controls it. A bottle of wine, of course, won't make him drunk, and it doesn't require any control. It just reminds him of a certain scene. So he looked away from Zhu Huntang and glanced at Qin Yinan. Sure enough, you still have to compare whether you are good looking or not. I just took a look at Zhu Huntang with the help of wine and thought Zhu Huntang is good looking. Looking at Qin Yinan again, it turns out that Qin Yinan is the real beauty. Zhu Huntang, after all, is a bit shorter and has a bad figure. Whether she is beautiful or not depends not only on her face, but also on the whole. Xiao Tang and I are young and cannot handle many things well. Sometimes we can't tell the difference between acting recklessly and acting casually. We still need your guidance and rules on the general direction and scale, Qin Yinan Gong said respectfully. During this time, Qin Yinan was also thinking about a question: how to get along with him in the future. It was impossible to continue to treat him as a cousin, but it felt strange to treat him like a filial piety to his great-grandfather. I feel like a senior now. Lu Chang'an nodded in agreement and noticed the difference in Qin Yinan's attitude. He hadn't thought about this problem, but it didn't matter. He didn't care whether he regarded him as a cousin or an old man. Or in private, when the mood comes, you can still call him brother with some gentleness and consideration from a woman's heart. I want to call you grandpa. Zhu Huntang got excited again when he thought of this. Qin Yinan felt that Zhu Huntang was taking advantage of him, but he remembered that Lu Chang'an said that everyone had their own opinions, not to mention that she could call him brother, which was not considered taking advantage of Zhu Huntang, so she did not express any opinions. Lu Chang'an still didn't bother to pay attention to her, shook the wine bottle, poured out a small half of the bowl and drank it. What do you think about the name of our organization? When talking about business, Qin Yinan remained respectful. How about the Jade Palace? It means we are the fairies of the Jade Palace and you are the Jade Emperor. Zhu Huntang gave full play to his subjective initiative in brainstorming and never forgot to make contributions. There are Jade Palaces in many places. There is a Jade Palace on Jade Emperor Mountain in western Guangxi. And Mayor Chen once organized their teams there. Lu Chang'an thought for a moment and waved his hand. No, the name sounds like Let's Be Like a Dance Masters organization. How does it look like the organization of a dancing master? Zhu Huntang spread his hands and looked at Qin Yinan for support. Qin Yinan blinked and signaled Zhu Huntang not to interrupt, waiting for the old senior's decisive decision. Let's call it Zhu Fenglai sword section. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said, looking at the two girls with a gentle expression to see if they had any opinions. What a bad name. Zhu Huntang was disappointed. I refuse. It's useless for you to refuse. Lu Chang'an waved his hand and looked at Qin Yinan, waiting for her to express her opinion. This is too middle school. It feels like the kind that elementary school boys like. Qin Yinan said hesitantly. Okay, since no one has expressed strong objections, this is the name. Lu Chang'an nodded with satisfaction. Qin Yinan took the initiative to look at Zhu Huntang. Forget it, who is the senior? This kind of elderly people are usually fans of the new martial arts novels. Just by hearing the name, you can tell that it is the style of the martial arts novels of the 1950s and 1960s. I am the sect leader. Lu Chang'an was not polite. Now that he has joined, he will do his best to be the sect leader. This is one of the reasons why he is willing to join. Miss Zionan is the elder, and Zhu Huntang is a member of the clan, an ordinary member of the clan. Why am I just a gang member? Zhu Huntang was very unconvinced. Do you have to deliberately show that I am an ordinary gang member, not even an elite gang member? There are only 3 people in our section. If you don't want to be a gang member, who will be a gang member? If all 3 of us manage the sect, there will be no one under us. How can that be done? Lu Chang'an said matter-of-factly. Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an, then at Qin Yinan, and sat down aggrievedly. What he said made sense, and Zhu Huntang wanted to beat him. Then since it's called Zhu Fenglai sword sect, can you use a sword? Zhu Huntang still tried his best to find trouble. Use the sword to be smart and use the sword to be heroic. I can do both. Lu Chang'an drank the remaining wine in the bowl and chanted, holding the body in the white blade, killing people in the mortal world. When the dynasty bows to Gao Yi, the whole world calls him a hero. Isn't it enough to say that I have to return to plowing the land in the east of the mausoleum and return without any property? Once the black fur is in ruins, 100 Yi gold are in the sky. Given to you. Lu Chang'an smiled at Zhu Huntang, stretched out his arms, and stood up. I'm going to change clothes. What did he give me? Zhu Huntang looked at Qin Yinan blankly. This is the poem he recited just now. Qin Yinan realized it. Lu Chang'an was naturally just joking, but it felt quite appropriate to the occasion. If you don't say something directly, why should you recite a poem? Sing Jing Bai. Zhu Huntang likes to use Taiwanese dialect when he complains about weird people. She couldn't even understand it. What she was most familiar with in classical literature now was the story of Jing Kei's assassination of the king of Qin. This is a passage from a poem by Li Bai. In those days, Li Bai made a lot of friends. After all his gold was gone, he came to Xiangyang to ask for help from his cousin, so he wrote this poem. He didn't finish it. Qin Yinan turning to look at the stairs going upstairs, Lu Chang'an's figure had disappeared. I think he is now the kind of person who lives a life of killing one person in 10 steps, leaving no trace for 1,000 miles. leaving behind his clothes when the matter is over, and hiding behind his name. Sounds awesome. He's already great. You are, he, I understand, there are psychological factors. Zhu Huntang smiled ambiguously. What? Qin Yinan punched her angrily. At that time, the old man and his friends, no matter their origin, education level, or life philosophy, they could live together for the common revolutionary ideal. We now have different living habits, different visions, and different social circles. How can we be together like this? Zhu Huntang imitated what Qin Yinan said when he first came to Junxia and was very resistant to blind dates, and he learned it in a good way. Qin Yinan's cheeks turned red, and she punched Zhu Huntang harder. You are going to die. If you mention it again, I will demote you as a gang member to a lower level later. I'm already an ordinary member of the gang, how can I be demoted? Zhu Huntang broke through the jar and started to learn again. With different concepts, life will be incoherent. Big and small things have their own consequences. Don't say who is right and who is wrong. But there is no harmony at all. Can such a strong melon be sweet? I'm telling you, from now on you will be an intern gang member. Qin Yinan immediately grabbed Zhu Huntang's neck and demoted her one level. Zhu Huntang saw that her hands were not free, so he naturally used his trump card to attack. Qin Yinan exclaimed, looked back with a red face, and quickly covered his chest. Fortunately, Lu Chang'an was not there. A weak elder who doesn't know his own abilities dares to bully this elite gang, Zhu Huntang said proudly. Bah, you trash intern gang member, Qin Yinan asked her to understand her true status. Zhu Huntang didn't care, and continued, Mr. Qin really knows everything. At his age, of course he will worry about your lifelong affairs. He is the most relieved to have such a magical guy taking care of you. What a pity. Why did you refuse in the first place? At that time, I remember that Lu Chang'an had not yet said that he had a girlfriend. I don't necessarily have to marry him before he will take care of me. After all, he is the elder, and there are only a few generations behind him. Qin Yinan is very willing to accept this very sufficient reason, because it is such a reason, so it must be like this. The result has nothing to do with whether you regret it or not. There are several generations between him and everyone. Isn't there a generation gap between him and that building? No. 2, Zhu Huntang pointed at himself, I will call him Grandpa. It's one thing to know that there is a seniority difference, but it's another thing not to know. Qin Yinan wanted to change the subject and looked at Zhu Huntang suspiciously. You always call an Nuan and you are in building 2 of Beilong Center. You also secretly gave it to me. Did you take the nickname of building 1 of Beilong Center? How could I? How could I? I didn't, Zhu Huntang denied with his neck stiffened, while looking around. Qin Yinan snorted and was too lazy to argue with Zhu Huntang. He just looked forward casually and his eyes fell on the armored transport vehicle. Qin Yinan looked at Zhu Huntang again. Why are you looking at me? There's something in your eyes. Zhu Huntang moved his eyes sensitively and twisted his body. The question Qin Yinan is thinking about now is that there is no doubt that his great-grandfather made a series of arrangements after knowing Lu Chang'an's whereabouts. So since Mrsu has also seen Lu Chang'an and knows that Lu Chang'an is here, she is even Lu Chang'an's old lover, will there be any arrangements that neither I nor Zhu Huntang know about? Today is a gratifying day. The first is that I finally became a new LV4 author. The second is that Silver Dream was born with the support of several major tycoons and the help of many book friends. I was supposed to start breaking out today, but my body is a little uncomfortable and is not in the most suitable state for breaking out. Tomorrow, 10 updates tomorrow. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 276. What Qin Yinan knows about Mrsu's arrangements so far is that the third wife mentioned arranging a marriage for Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang, but both parties refused. The third wife repeatedly asked to talk to Lu Chang'an, but Lu Chang'an also refused. Now that I think about it, neither my great-grandfather nor Mrs. seems to mind marrying their great-granddaughter to someone of the same age. For Lu Chang'an, who can stay young forever and can change his appearance, his seniority does not seem to matter. Otherwise, the longer time passes, the higher his seniority will be, and all girls will be his descendants. Will he always live alone in the future? I don't know how he got here all these years. Qin Yan'an sighed in his heart. The third wife also arranged your marriage with Lu Chang'an. Qin Yan'an pointed to the direction Lu Chang'an went upstairs. I don't think your mother is very concerned about this matter. Otherwise, with her style, she should go to An and now talk warmly. Fortunately, no, Zhu Huntang was a little scared. She was actually a little afraid of Lu Chang'an. After all, Lu Chang'an would not be merciful to fairies. If it really happened, I think Lu Chang'an would kill my mother. It's not that exaggerated. Qin Yan'an couldn't help lowering her voice. Besides, your mother is not that easy to kill. Lu Chang'an was extremely violent. He beat Pu Xiaogang and Pu Xiaojin's 2 apprentices. He beat me, he beat journalists, he beat Ma Weiming, he also beat classmates, he also beat Zhou Shuling's suitor, and he even took my dog. Kill him and not only eat it yourself, but also sell it for money. Zhu Huntang could only think of Lu Chang'an's big fist. This is only what I know. When we didn't know how many people he had fought with. Woolen cloth. Thinking about all these things that happened recently, it seems that the frequency of his fights is a bit high, but Qin Yan'an still doesn't care. He just beats people. You think too much about killing people, let alone killing your mother. Your mom is the third girl that old madam so cares about, so he has to keep the old madam's face in mind no matter what. He was in trouble and gave up all those years ago, so why should he care about face? Zhu Huntang muttered and quickly stopped talking when he saw Lu Chang'an changed his clothes and came down. Qin Yan'an didn't say any more. She didn't think so. Violence is just a method suitable for rational people to control. People have been peaceful for too long now, so that some garbage dares to arrogantly provoke self-discipline and peace at any time. People and society, sometimes fists can make people more awake, and bloodiness should not be suppressed so as not to dare to explode at all. As for Zhu Huntang thinking that Lu Chang'an might kill her mother, it would be better to say that Zhu Huntang had a desire in his heart to see the high-ranking third wife knocked down to dust. Is this mentality strange? Having known Zhu Huntang for many years, Qin Yan'an knew that this was a normal thing, especially after she read and taught herself a lot of psychology during the summer vacation. Lu Chang'an put on his usual comfortable and leisure three-piece suit and nodded to Qin Yan'an and Zhu Huntang. Not as handsome as before, Zhu Huntang commented, but it's nothing, it's just the difference between a pineapple and a pineapple. Are you complimenting or sarcastically speaking? Lu Chang'an asked. Qin Yan'an just demoted me to an intern gang member. If you reinstate me as an official, I will call you handsome every day. You see, when the big shots appear, there are cute children waving flags and cheering. Zhu Huntang showed an innocent expression, to show that you have something in common with your cute children. Lu Chang'an has no such need. Let's talk about our plan again. Qin Yan'an asked for his opinion. No, I have something very important to do. Lu Chang'an shook his head. You can write a plan, or some of your own ideas, some insights, poems and songs. The subject matter is not limited. I will leave first. Qin Yan'an could only nod. Lu Chang'an waved his hand, indicating to them to help themselves, and left first. I don't think he is very interested in this matter, Zhu Huntang said with some disappointment. Lu Chang'an's attitude dampened her enthusiasm. Zhu Huntang was originally full of expectations for this matter. In his opinion, we are just kids messing around. After all, he has participated in the largest class revolution and national reconstruction in human history. Qin Yan'an was not surprised. It is a great honor for me that he is willing to participate. You have really been brainwashed by him. Zhu Huntang poked Qin Yan'an in the forehead. Can you stop standing in his position and speaking for him? Then what do you think of him? Qinyan rolled her eyes at Zhu Huntang. At least be proactive, for example, lead us to do a big thing first, just like the 3 things a new official does when he takes office, like killing a few people first in order to establish his authority. Zhu Huntang said boringly, thinking of another thing. By the way, I remember that there is a setting of peripheral gangs. I put my people into the peripheral gangs of our Kyushu Fenglai sword section. How about letting me lead them? Qinyan ignored her. Lu Chang'an took advantage of still some time and jogged all the way to the timber market. Lu Chang'an plans to buy some solid wood boards and joinery wood boards to make furniture. Nowadays, there are fewer and fewer precious woods. For example, beechwood is good for making gun stocks and precision instruments, but it is used in large quantities for daily household furniture. This kind of solid wood board processed from natural wood is still a bit luxurious for Lu Chang'an. He wants to save some money for Zhou Shuling to open a shop. In fact, he doesn't care if the material of the furniture is better or worse. The key is the production process, as long as the quality is sufficient. He doesn't have the need or expectation to live an extremely exquisite life in any detail. Another point is that the aroma of solid wood boards is very natural and smells comfortable. Joinery board is actually plywood with wooden slats spliced together to make a core board. The quality of the core board determines the grade of joinery board. This thing is not so natural. You need to pay attention to the amount of formaldehyde released. Lu Chang'an naturally does not care about this. But after all, children often come to visit me at home. The main features of joinery wood boards are that they have good screw holding power, are strong and hard, and are easy to process. The store delivered the goods to the door, and Lu Chang'an took the minivan home. Unloading was simple, which impressed the driver and loader. After all, Lu Chang'an did all the loading and unloading himself, and he looked very professional. Zhou Dongdong was watching the excitement. She tried to help, but Lu Chang'an took her aside and stopped her from participating. I am very strong. Zhou Dongdong stood outside Lu Chang'an's house with his fist on his waist and said. Lu Chang'an did not allow her to come in. Then you go and fill in all the puddles caused by the rain today, Lu Chang'an suggested. I'll fill it in tomorrow. Then what are you doing the day after tomorrow? The day after tomorrow, I'll play the day after tomorrow. Zhou Dongdong thought about it and had no plan. What about the day after tomorrow? I'll play the day after tomorrow too. What about the day after tomorrow? I play every day. No, you're going to school. That's the day when school starts. You're going to elementary school to be a pupil. You'll have to stay in school every day to do homework, read and memorize. Lu Chang'an saw her doing nothing, so of course he had to remind her to pick up the child. What does it look like down there? It's different from what she thought. It turns out that she can't play every day. Zhou Dongdong looked at Lu Chang'an blankly. In fact, she knew that studying was inevitable. Yesterday she met Xiao Doubting and Xia Doubting's mother. Xiao Doubting was still alive. After telling her that she could only continue studying in kindergarten and never go to elementary school, Xiao Doubting wanted to run away from home and asked Zhou Dongdong if he would take the subway to a faraway place by himself. Seeing Zhou Dongdong's difficulty in accepting the reality, Lu Chang'an burst into laughter. I won't play with you anymore. Zhou Dongdong turned around stiffly and walked upstairs, not like he usually jumped up a few stairs before running home. I'll make pickled vegetables and braised pig's feet for you to eat later. Lu Chang'an pointed downstairs. I'll come down and eat later. Then I won't play with you after eating. Zhou Dongdong thought about it, but still couldn't forgive his annoying brother Chang'an. I don't care if you play with me. Lu Chang'an was very proud. I'll play with you tomorrow. Zhou Dongdong was not as proud as he was. Lu Chang'an laughed and stretched out his finger to flick Zhou Dongdong's forehead. Zhou Dongdong sat on the stairs with his head in his arms, watching Lu Chang'an come in and out, busy up and down. In the evening, Lu Chang'an asked Zhou Shuling to discuss opening a store. I calculated it. After selling 100 bowls of rice noodles every day, After taking into account the rent, management fees, cleaning fees, and miscellaneous labor costs, we will make a pure profit from the extra bowls sold, Zhou Shuling said with great anticipation. Business will definitely be good on the first day. Let's see in the future. In addition to rice noodles, I will also prepare a chicken drumstick set. The method of making big chicken drumsticks is a bit special, but it was invented by Zhou Dongdong, so I plan to call it Zhou Dongdong brand large chicken drumsticks. Lu Chang'an said as he looked at Zhou Dongdong, who was kneeling on the floor and stacking blocks. She can still invent it. Zhou Shuling didn't believe it, but said with some confidence, she just knows how to eat it. As a store manager, you have to give yourself a salary, and you can take care of other recruitment matters yourself. Zhou Shuling must have this shrewdness and talent, and Lu Chang'an can rest assured, even if he really screws up the store. And he doesn't care much. How can that be done? I don't want a salary. Zhou Shuling shook her head repeatedly. She had no such idea at all. This was a partnership between herself and Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an definitely didn't have time. She could just take care of her more. Anyway, she had nothing else to do. What's the salary? That has to be included in the cost. Let's do it. Lu Chang'an's tone was very calm, but he didn't allow her to talk nonsense. Oh, Zhou Shuling responded a little aggrievedly. She was obviously the one who was being particular, but he was actually being mean to others. The stores are located in places where consumption is relatively high, and there are a lot less rough gentlemen. Although there is no shortage of people who are gossipy and mean-spirited, there can be a little less after all. You don't have to swallow your anger when you see people with playful smiles and oily mouths. Now, if you can't scold me, call the security guard. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. If there is any problem, please contact the All-Stars. This person thinks we have such a good relationship with the third wife, you can just use it. Zhou Shuling has mixed feelings in her heart, thinking that her days of working from dawn to dusk to open a breakfast stall are finally coming to an end. As a single young woman with good looks and a good figure, if she takes care of herself and wants to be independent and work hard, the society's heavy pressure on her and the grievance of disgust is unimaginable to those who have not experienced it. Glancing at Lu Chang'an, Zhou Shuling's eyes were gentle and warm. She just felt that no matter what, the beauty of this world was probably that even if there were evil people in power, there would always be good people standing up to stop her from despairing. All stars seem to be single too. Lu Chang'an smiled. What? He's already bald, Zhou Shuling reacted, stunned for a moment, then smiled and hit Lu Chang'an's arm. He just lost a little hair. He is young, only in his early 30s. Disgusting. I don't need you to worry about this, Zhou Shuling said with the confidence of someone who has experienced it. Actually, I have given up long ago. Women don't have to find a man to live. If I raise Dongdong well, I have nothing to pursue. Lu Chang'an just said this casually. He always did things in moderation and rarely helped others to the end. After all, other people's emotional lives are for others to experience and decide for themselves. Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong played with blocks for a while, and then went back after building a small one-legged animal. Zhou Dongdong said that brother Chang'an built a monster, but Lu Chang'an insisted that it was a piglet because Zhou Dongdong ate it today. There are 3 pig feet, so the piglet only has 1 leg. Zhou Shuling couldn't help but smile. In fact, what she likes to see most is Zhou Shuling following Lu Chang'an. Even if she is wandering around with nothing to do, it doesn't matter if she is fed like a pig. According to the parenting books she read, children are growing up during the process. It is very important to have a male role model, which can make her experience more brave, independent, and tolerant temperament. Lu Chang'an is still young, and it's still early to get married. It can last for many years to be neighbors like this. It feels good to think about it. When Lu Chang'an grows up, he will get married and have children. His own Zhou Dongdong also grew up. No matter how Zhou Dongdong prayed for Ultraman's blessing, the day of school finally arrived. Zhou Dongdong got up very early that day. After going downstairs, he hid under the car. He was later found. After carrying it back, he said that his skull bag was missing. Zhou Shuling looked everywhere but couldn't find the skull bag, so she beat Zhou Dongdong. After a meal, I found my skull bag under the bed. Zhou Shuling successfully brought Zhou Dongdong to school. As for whether Zhou Dongdong's kindergarten classmate Xiao Doubting successfully took the subway and ran away from home, no one knew. Zhou Dongdong is in elementary school. Lu Chang'an went to college. Lu Chang'an had made a prediction on the official account of Hunan University earlier, and filled in his personal information, time and method of coming to school, and military training clothing information. After filling in, a QR code for the prediction will be generated. The college entrance examination has not been held every year since the founding of the People's Republic of China. It always takes many years to take the college entrance examination. What's more, the current college entrance examination requirements and knowledge reserves are completely different from those 20 years ago or decades ago. For most people, a college entrance examination is a lifetime experience that lasts for decades. If someone thinks that Lu Chang'an has taken the college entrance examination dozens of times since the founding of the People's Republic of China, this kind of person is really mentally ill, but there are really people who think like this. In addition, he has only participated in the college entrance examination 3 times this time, which is similar to some repeat students. He is definitely not qualified to be selected as one of the candidates who have participated in the college entrance examination the most times. These 3 college entrance examinations were more difficult than the last. Fortunately, Lu Chang'an was able to do it with ease. It turned out that An Nuan and An Nuan had agreed to report to school together. It was An Nuan who came to his house on Chinese Valentine's Day. Today, of course, Lu Chang'an ran over. This arrangement was not agreed upon in advance, but An Nuan just waited for him at home obediently. This was the tacit understanding cultivated over the past 3 years. Lu Chang'an did not wear his shorts, vest, and 3-piece suit today. He put on a white shirt, black trousers, and naughty shoes, and carried a military green shoulder bag. An Nuan's grandfather has officially fulfilled his duties, and his grandmother has also left. They have not yet reached the age of retirement. Grandma's work is arranged according to her grandfather's work. There are only An Nuan and Lu Yuwang at home. Professor Ling's family next door sent Hans Hizzy to Shanghai. The family of 3 stopped by Disney to play. For families where middle-aged people are the mainstay of economic strength, places like Guilin, Sun Moon Lake, and Disney are all the yearning where the feelings lie. The other grades have started classes early. Lu Yuwang has no class today and is still writing her research paper on Guomoruo at home. Of course, she does not need to send An Nuan to class. Since An Nuan came back to her, she has also been in Hunan University. After living together for many years, Hans Hizzy and I traveled to every corner of Hunan University, climbed the tallest tree of Hunan University, climbed over the wall of Lushan Academy, ate the specialties of every cafeteria, got to know professors of all ages, and gave advice to students of all sizes. The leaders all paid homage to the doc, no, they paid homage to the new year. An Nuan has some arrangements and expectations for college life and study, but there is nothing rare about the school itself. Lu Chang'an is similar. Come in first. Lu Chang'an knocked on the door and An Nuan opened the door. Lu Chang'an walked in. He had made egg noodles in the morning. There was no sign of breakfast at An Nuan's house. There were yogurt boxes, leftover lamb ribs, and vegetable and fruit salads on the dining table. You are nostalgic. Lu Yuwang paused for a while to organize his words, and did not call Lu Chang'an old-fashioned. An Nuan and Lu Chang'an have been dating for such a long time, and Lu Yuwang is no longer picky now, and talks to Lu Chang'an much more casually. A student who is particularly temperamental, like those in the old era who were particularly ideal and motivated, and Nguyen's understanding of the old era certainly came from some TV series and movies. Many people still wore this style in the 1980s. This satchel was quite popular at that time. Lu Yuwang looked at Lu Chang'an for a while. Do you also have a deep impression of the 1980s? And Nguyen was very doubtful, because her mother was born in the 1980s. She was not over 10 years old during the entire 1980s. How could she know what was popular? I'm deeper than you. Lu Yuwang glared at Nguyen with disgust. There was something wrong with this baby's head. Lu Yuwang noticed it. As long as Lu Yuwang talked to Lu Chang'an, and Nguyen especially liked to talk back to her. I think people with connotation and thoughts, people with strong souls, just need to wear clean and tidy clothes. Lu Chang'an said casually, only those with a thin temperament need such and such fancy clothes. And Nguyen and Lu Yuwang looked at Lu Chang'an together. Take back the last sentence. Lu Chang'an calmly changed his words. Lu Yuwang did not wear a cheongsam today, but a Chinese-style coat with a retro button stand-up collar, warm grass gray color, wide sleeves, rolled up to reveal circles of woven patterns, and her arms were white and warm, loose and slanted. A green jade bracelet hung sideways, and her slender legs were wearing rattan slippers under her coat. This outfit made her consciously think that Lu Chang'an was saying that she was wearing something flashy. How can a little boy know how to appreciate? Lu Yuwang didn't take it seriously. She had taken a lot of selfies recently, posted them on WeChat Moments, and set them up to be visible to specific people. Only mature men would understand that her age contains the temperament of years and books, and it is by no means a flashy thing. And Nguyen burst out laughing and pulled Lu Chang'an to her room. Don't close the door. Lu Yuwang felt that by lowering his voice to show that he was respecting the little boy, he had to remind them that it was not appropriate for a man and a woman to close the door alone in the room. This is the psychological skill of a mature mother. And Nguyen closed the door, locked it with a click, and then smiled mischievously at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an immediately became vigilant. What do you want to do to me? I hate it, I'm looking for a beating. And Nguyen stood in front of Lu Chang'an and punched his chest several times. Although this action has been teased by people ever since the little fist punching your chest came out, and Nguyen found that it really felt coquettish and proud, and he simply couldn't stop unless he held her hand. His fist pulled her into his arms. I'm going to hit your chest too. Lu Chang'an clenched his fist and hit you. And Nguyen was startled and quickly backed away, her face flushed. I'll beat you up later. Lu Chang'an laughed. And Nguyen just rolled her eyes at him and remembered that at the end of May, the day after he missed class, he bumped her chest and said he wanted to rub it for her. As expected, even if Lu Chang'an liked it the most, he is a big rabbit like Bai Fen, but he still covets his girlfriend. Hey, and Nguyen was a little proud, but also a little shy. She stood up and opened the closet, picked up a piece of clothing and put it in front of her to gesture, which one should I wear today? Give me some advice. After Lu Chang'an gave his advice, he was kicked out. And Nguyen wanted to change clothes. At present, it was still impossible for Nguyen to change clothes in front of him, not to mention Lu Yuwang was still in the living room. Thinking about such a rebellious thing, just blush and let your reason control it. It's better not to be too rebellious. When Lu Chang'an came out, Lu Yuwang was mopping the floor at Nguyen's door. The entire living room and corridor were mopped clean at Nguyen's door. Hey, I have a little back pain. Lu Yuwang stretched out and didn't want to mop the floor anymore, but he felt that he wouldn't mop the floor now because it would leave too many traces. I'm good at massage, Lu Chang'an said. Seeing Lu Yuwang's stunned look, he continued, but I'm better at mopping the floor. Lu Chang'an took the mop and mopped the floor. Of course, he was not showing off in front of Lu Yuwang. There was no need. He was just helping Lu Yuwang act and cooperated to prevent her from being embarrassed by her pretense. What are Nguyen doing? Lu Yuwang watched Lu Chang'an mopping the floor. Change your clothes and ask my opinion. She doesn't want to wear anything today, I understand. She wants to wear something that matches yours. This little girl is really thoughtful. Lu Yuang walked away disdainfully. And Nuan changed her clothes and came out after a while, also carrying a bag, and said to Lu Chang'an, "Let's go." Lu Chang'an picked up the satchel placed on the sofa. "Mom, let's go." "Goodbye. Professor Lu, goodbye." "Goodbye." Lu Chang'an and An Nuan walked under the morning sunshine. An Nuan changed into a white shirt, a black skirt, and a pair of white Converse high-top shoes with left and right written on the toe. Words. An Nuan still exudes a lively and sunny feeling all over her body, as if she should be on the sun-covered road, always jumping briskly with her legs straightened. "I bought this shirt and skirt in junior high school. When I started to grow, I was very shy, so I wanted to buy looser and larger clothes to cover myself up." And Nuan took Lu Chang'an's arm with some embarrassment. "It's just right now, it seems like your growth is limited." Lu Chang'an looked at it and commented. "I'll give you a chance to reorganize your language." And Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an gently. "It's just right now, it seems that your development is in line with expectations." Lu Chang'an looked at it and commented again. "This is the superiority of Chinese." And Nuan always felt that Lu Chang'an had not reorganized the language well, but he could not find fault, so he had to let him go for the time being. Of course, Lu Chang'an does not really dislike An Nuan's body development. In fact, An Nuan has a very good figure. For such a tall person, her legs take up most of the proportion, and her hip line is perfect. In fact, most men will experience looking at their faces and breasts. When looking at the legs, I finally felt that the position where I let go when I held her in my arms and fell asleep was more important. This is just an objective discussion of preferences. Lu Chang'an is not thinking about this at this moment. Over the years of living in human civilization, for this land alone, days like this are probably the most leisurely and comfortable time. Although there is not much difference to him, but seeing the same relaxation and sunshine on the faces of the people around him is a more comfortable thing after all. I suddenly remembered that we seem to have an old classmate whose development meets your expectations. I wonder if she will come to us today. When talking about the topic of development, and Nuan will of course think of Bai Hui first. "Old classmate, if you come to see us, you can have a meal together," Lu Chang'an said without any objection. And Nuan looked at him and nodded. There are still many beauties on the university campus, and Nuan started to look left and right again. A tall girl with long hair parted to reveal her forehead and a confident smile walked past Lu Chang'an and took a look at Lu Chang'an's dress. "It seems a little strange that he and An Nuan are a couple. Your horizons are too small. The world is so big and there are many, many beautiful women. I don't know how many times more women there are than on the university campus." Lu Chang'an held An Nuan's hand. "It's just right. My horizons are also small and I only see you." An Nuan smiled shyly, then took Lu Chang'an's hand, pressed her cheek against his shoulder, and continued to rock slowly like conjoined twins. At the fork in the road, An Nuan and Lu Chang'an were about to separate. The two were in different colleges, and Lu Chang'an's biology college was closer. "Report to me the appearance of the girls in the class as soon as possible." "Good. Aren't you going to tell me?" "Okay, tell the boys in your class that your boyfriend is the head of the Kyushu Fenglai sword sect, the Kyushu Fenglai swordsman. If you steal my girlfriend, you will die." And Nuan burst into laughter. Even though Lu Chang'an was talking nonsense, he was still happy, so he put his hands behind his back and ran to the opposite side to get in the car. There are many on-campus bus routes on the Hunan University campus, and An Nuan is familiar with them. She missed Hans Hizzy a little, but felt that Lu Chang'an would be with her in the future, so she took a photo of the bus license plate that both she and Hans Hizzy were familiar with and gave it to Hans Hizzy. Lu Chang'an smiled and waved, then turned and left. And Nuan thought he was joking, but actually Lu Chang'an didn't think it was a joke. For males, when other males try to get their hands on their mates, fighting is an instinct, and there is no such thing. The so-called humility is true whether it is a lion, a tiger, or a monkey. After all, genes control life, and the first instinct of genes is to pass them on. The specific expression is the male's pursuit of a mate, so to steal someone else's girlfriend is equivalent to wanting someone to cut off their children and grandchildren, even though they have been robbed of their girlfriends. It may not necessarily lead to the death of descendants, but that's the reason. Lu Chang'an knew that there were many young males on university campuses with strong hormone secretions and nowhere to vent their energy. There would definitely be people who were ready to make a move on Nuan and who did not respect the warning of the 9 provinces Wind and Thunder swordsman. The consequences would be serious. It is impossible for him to have the first instinct to inherit under the control of genes, because he himself is the inheritance, but this principle is his own. If others try to get involved in a Nuan, they still have to follow the male instinct to react. Since I am a freshman in the School of Biology, the thoughts and ideas just now can be regarded as professional qualities. Thinking about all these, Lu Chang'an came to the registration point of the college, took out the notification letter, ID card, and the QR code for pre-arrival, and completed the registration after scanning the code with the college teacher. There are a lot of people coming to register at this time. Lu Chang'an has to queue up to download the registration form and fill out the student safety commitment letter. It seems that although this time the university admission seems to be much easier electronically, in fact there are still many procedures. It can even be said to have increased. Lu Chang'an remembered that the last time he came to university, it was much simpler. He paid the money and filled out the form and then went to the dormitory. Of course, people at that time lived a simpler life, and sometimes they were more rational, such as the student safety commitment letter is not necessary. At that time, if something happened to a student in school, how to divide the responsibilities was not based on making trouble. Times are progressing, people's hearts are not as old as before, and there are gains and losses. Lu Chang'an lamented that it was useless. When he turned around, he saw an impressive girl figure. After downloading and printing the registration form, she disappeared in front of the team. "Everyone, please stop teasing me. I'm awake. I'll update 4 today and 6 tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal." Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 277. It was very impressive, but he didn't know where this impression came from. Lu Chang'an couldn't get a clear retrieval point, so naturally he couldn't search it in his memory. So this feeling made people suspicious. Lu Chang'an glanced at the direction where the girl's back disappeared, walked out of the queue, and came to the front of the boy who was printing the registration form. "Classmate, have you seen the face of the female classmate who was in front of you just now?" Lu Chang'an asked. "I saw it," the boy with a very energetic pimple on his nose replied slowly. "Does it look good?" Lu Chang'an asked next. The boy nodded repeatedly. "Did you take any secret photos?" The boy showed some anger, and the pimples on his nose became more energetic. "Am I that kind of person? No. I'm sorry." There was still some regret in his tone. "Thanks." Lu Chang'an walked back and started queuing again at the back of the queue. He was thinking, since it looks good, why can't he remember where he saw it? Maybe it's just that this boy thinks it looks good. It's natural that his vision is higher than that of ordinary people. There is no need to think too much about this point. Forget it, since we are freshmen at Xiang University, maybe we will meet again one day. Even if he queued up again, the queue was not long. Lu Chang'an quickly printed out the registration form and received a tuition and miscellaneous fee receipt from the registration group, because the tuition fee was paid in advance through a UnionPay IC electronic debit card. After looking at his department and class, Lu Chang'an took the card he received and followed the process signs to the Academic Affairs office. The Student Affairs Office is the place where insurance is handled. You need to pay 4 years of insurance and go through the procedures at one time. The insurance coverage is very wide, and the insurance premium is not high. The most important thing is that the insurance company faces a school like Xiang University as a backup. Student insurance claims are not that strong and demanding. What am I doing here? Lu Chang'an looked at the insurance premium and left. He strongly recommended that every new student buy insurance. Today is the last day for new students to officially register. Classes, dormitories, and counselors have all been assigned, and there will be class meetings in designated classrooms in the afternoon. Lu Chang'an downloaded a campus map on his mobile phone and was prepared with a life guide and bus route map. Nearly 20 years later, Hunan University has changed a lot. Lu Chang'an took a casual walk around the campus. Most of the parents who have taken a good look at the two main attractions in Zhengzhou, Zhuzhutu and Lushan, have to leave Zhengzhou today, leaving their children to experience the steamer-like atmosphere in the city. The weather, the plastic-heavy Mandarin, and the spicy Hunan cuisine. The freshmen had expressions of excitement, curiosity, apprehension, anticipation, etc. on their faces. The seniors passing by looked around calmly, looking at themselves with a slight superiority. The temperament of half-experienced graduate students is generally no different from that of young teachers, not to mention that some graduate students sometimes go to class to give lectures on homework and do some work in school. Lu Chang'an saw the introduction about the famous teachers of Hunan University. Some of them had their heads above them many years ago, but now they looked a little older. When he saw Su Zhancheng and Ren Changhong, he couldn't help but laugh, and he also saw how he looked back then. The 2 or 3 students I taught would probably be quite shameless when talking about Professor Lu back then. There is actually Lu Yuang. Sure enough, he is good looking and can be ranked as a famous teacher. Well, a famous teacher does not mean that he has outstanding academic achievements. It is good to be famous. Lu Chang'an thought this, and immediately reviewed his preconceptions. Lu Yuang may not have some real talents, but she is too easy for people to pay attention to her appearance. Lu Chang'an looked at Lu Yuang's ID photo again. There were indeed very few people who could make their ID photo look better than other people's beauty portraits. Some people could even have a lively look between their eyebrows in the photo. Beauty on paper, not a stereotypical printed drawing. Fortunately, my girlfriend also looks like this, which is pretty good. What are you doing here? Lu Chang'an was looking at photos of familiar, unfamiliar, and unfamiliar people when he was tapped on the shoulder. Actually, if you tap someone on the shoulder from behind, you will easily get thrown over your shoulder. Lu Chang'an turned around and said to Bai Hui. You try, Bai Hui challenged happily. After all, everyone is a college student today, and it is inevitable that they will feel a little anxious in a strange environment. Naturally, she felt happy when she saw Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an looked around. Bai Hui quickly took a few steps back. When Lu Chang'an saw that she recognized her, he clapped his hands and gave up trying to satisfy her request. Are you really going to throw me over your shoulder? Bai Hui looked at her in disbelief. I am always willing to help others. If you want to try an over-the-shoulder throw, I will naturally agree to it. Lu Chang'an pointed to the grass next to him. It won't hurt if you fall over it. This is also an experience, as you said yourself. Yes, buying a luxury product is actually a necessity for a girl. It's certainly not good to be thrown over your shoulder often, but it's also necessary to experience it once. Can this be the same? Bai Hui objected with her eyes widened, and she was a little happy, but she didn't say the reason for her joy. Lu Chang'an actually remembered what she said, which was a bit surprising. There's nothing different. Have you finished applying? Lu Chang'an asked. Bai Hui shouldn't be able to apply for the biology department. It's done, I'll take a walk. How can a girl like you be free at this time? Wasn't it true that as soon as she entered school, she was actively attracted by major clubs and became a celebrity in the class? Busy with various social activities, Lu Chang'an was slightly confused. Bai Hui took a closer look at Lu Chang'an's expression, which was as normal as usual. It didn't look like he was being sarcastic, but he couldn't tell for sure. It was hard to tell whether Lu Chang'an was sarcastic or not. I heard that Zheongda University's club recruitment event will be held after the National Day. There will be a recruitment event called the 100 Regiments War. I plan to join the house dance troupe. Bai Hui originally wanted to show off that there is actually a club president. He personally came to win over her, but Lu Chang'an was probably not interested. Lu Chang'an nodded to show that he heard. What are your plans and arrangements for college? Bai Hui asked with interest. Learn something new. This one. That's what college is for. Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui chatted for a while and then received a call from Qin Yinan. I'm leaving first, Lu Chang'an said to Bai Hui. Bai Hui retracted her hands in her sleeves and waved, biting her lips, turned around and jumped away. There were so many girls looking for Lu Chang'an, why would she want to be one of them? Bai Hui thought this and kicked the tree next to him angrily. Yes, Lu Chang'an was just like this tree. He had nothing to do in front of him. It was annoying to look at it. After kicking the tree a few times, Bai Hui felt much better and went back to his college. Lu Chang'an and Qin Yinan met at the orientation point of the South Campus dormitory park. Qin Yinan has become a counselor at Zheongnan University. The size of a university lies in its large number of people. On a campus with tens of thousands of people like Xiang University, there are countless beautiful and ugly people who come and go every day. There are always no special disturbances. It's just that a woman like Qin Yinan is still a flower in the long river of time. The stunning waves fell into the hearts of tens of thousands of people at Hunan University and became ripples. Especially in an era where social media is so developed, many students who have met Qin Yinan and young teachers who secretly hide and hang out online have begun to exclaim that there may be a fight for the title of the most beautiful teacher at Hunan University. Some people think that Lu Yuwang is a professor, with a more scholarly temperament and identity, and his many years of accumulation and heritage are not comparable to that of a young counselor. Some people think that Qin Yinan is younger, and youth is capital, not to mention Qin Yinan's figure. Anyone who is not blind knows what kind of beauty she is, but Professor Lu Yuwang is more reserved after all, and her figure is more of the softness and gentleness of an Oriental woman. Some people think they are evenly matched. They are not women they can touch anyway. Who cares who is more beautiful and has a better figure? Just eye-catching. Lu Chang'an passed through the crowd and came to the welcome point. There are more than 20 dormitory buildings here. There are 4 of the 9 canteens of Hunan University. Half of the students of Hunan University gather here to eat, drink and relieve themselves. It is naturally bustling. The tall woman was very eye-catching. Lu Chang'an saw Qin Yinan, walked over, and found that she was watching the students receive military training uniforms and bedding. Standing next to her was a tall and thin young teacher with slightly thin cheeks and a mole on his eyebrows and feet that slightly spoiled his image. He was in good spirits and looked neat. He was pointing and telling Qin Yinan something. Cousin, when Qin Yinan saw Lu Chang'an shouted with a smile. The young male teacher also smiled and did not speak immediately. After Qin Yinan digested his cousin, she said calmly and with concern like a cousin, "You haven't received your military training uniform and bedding yet, have you?" "I didn't get the military training uniform, but I'm a day student," Lu Chang'an signed casually, intending to receive a military training uniform. "I'll arrange a bed in the dormitory for you so that you can have a place to go when you want to rest at school." Qin Yinan remembered that her great-grandfather's original intention of arranging for her to come here was actually to let her take care of Lu Chang'an's life. Now she knew that after knowing his true identity, he will naturally take the initiative to arrange more things, even if he feels that they are not needed. That's okay. Lu Chang'an didn't care. "Or you can rest in the mountains. A bit far. It only takes 10 minutes to drive. Speaking of which, The guest room is much better than the dormitory. Chinyanan reached out to pick up the bedding. The young male teacher rushed to help. Seeing that Chinyanan had no intention of introducing his cousin to him, he interrupted, "Teacher Chin, is the mountain you are talking about Lushan?" Chinyanan nodded and walked to the dormitory while saying to Lu Chang'an, "This is Teacher Yu General. The department arranged for Teacher Yu Gen to take me." Of course, Chinyanan has no experience as a counselor, so this arrangement is necessary. Otherwise, one counselor will take care of 3 classes of freshmen, which will make Chinyanan very busy and at a loss. There is a completely difference between having experience and being inexperienced. Work together, Yu Gen said with a smile. Hunan University still has some 8-person dormitories, and the conditions seem to be difficult now, but now Lu Chang'an lives in a 4-person room with an independent bathroom with air conditioning, a shared laundry room and a washing machine. Lu Chang'an does not need these very much, and the dormitory area is okay. In addition to Lu Chang'an, 3 boys have already moved in. He is Lu Chang'an. Chinyanan had already come up once. Looking at the 3 boys who were a little embarrassed and nervous, he introduced, Sun Shutong, Qin's Haiqiang, and Wei Xuanyi. The 3 boys did not expect that the young and beautiful counselor had remembered their names. They were all a little surprised and quickly greeted Lu Chang'an. "You go ahead and go ahead. I'll stay in the dormitory for a while," Lu Chang'an said to Chinyanan. "Okay, call me if you need anything." Chinyanan nodded and motioned for Yu Gen, who was standing at the door, to leave together. Yu Gen turned back and glanced at Lu Chang'an. This cousin seemed to assign her to his cousin at random. Why did Teacher Chin accept it so naturally? There were only 4 people left in the dormitory. Lu Chang'an was the last one to come. These 3 seemed to have been here for a few days. The toiletries were all laid out. Except for Lu Chang'an's seat, the other 3 people all brought out their computers. There were some snacks on the table. Books, figures, posters, glasses. Single men all have the ability to mess up their own territory in a short period of time. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Wei Xuanyi. I come from Guangdong province and like to play basketball. Wei Xuanyi is very tall, taller than Lu Chang'an, with a dark and muscular appearance. Qin's Haiqiang, from Chengdu. Qin's Haiqiang is a little fat, with greasy hair. He is wearing a large vest that Lu Chang'an also likes very much. His belly is full and his fingers are round. He reaches out to shake Lu Chang'an's hand. "I'm Sun Shutong, local, I know you." Sun Shutong looked at Lu Chang'an for a while, then nodded with some certainty, but he didn't seem interested in saying more about how he knew Lu Chang'an. "Lu Chang'an. I am a day student. I usually sleep here occasionally. I am probably a relatively transparent roommate." Lu Chang'an was not interested in how others knew him. "Before you came up, we were preparing to line up the eldest, second, and third." Wei Xuanyi continued to line up with interest. "Have you read too many campus gangster novels from more than 10 years ago?" Lu Chang'an smiled. "Let's play in line, let's play in line. No one else has to wait in line. It's interesting if we line up again." Qin's Haiqiang also said happily. Sun Shutong patted his knee indifferently. "No need to wait in line, I'm the biggest," Lu Chang'an said with a smile. "Why, are you in your 1990s?" Wei Xuanyi asked unconvincedly. He had read statistics. The youngest freshmen at Hunan University this year were 14 years old. The largest number were born in 1999, 1998, and 2000. There are quite a few. "The counselor is my cousin, do you have any questions?" The 3 boys were stunned for a moment. They did not expect that each other would be so social when they first entered college. But now that they have come to college, they have consciously matured a little in this small society and have acquiesced to some rules and phenomena. They were all convinced, but no one called Lu Chang'an boss, so there was no need to mention this matter. It seemed useless that my cousin was a counselor, but it was better not to provoke him. Lu Chang'an frightened several teenagers. Seeing their silence, they probably had no interest in talking to him. Lu Chang'an kicked off his shoes, climbed onto the bed, made the bed, and then came down to put on his own shoes. His shoes are not the only pair of cloth shoes. Qin's Haiqiang also wears a pair of cloth shoes, but Lu Chang'an's shoes are made by himself, and the solace are made by himself with rubber solace, which make them more suitable and comfortable to wear. The three of them were chatting about the beauties from Hunan University below. After most of the boys and girls left high school and entered the relaxed environment of the university campus, they were a little bit eager to make a move. It seemed that they had never realized that the reason why they did not fall in love in high school was not because of the prohibition of early love. Lu Chang'an, ask your cousin, how many girls are there in our class, Wei Xuanyi said to Lu Chang'an with a smile. According to convention, there will be no more than 10. Lu Chang'an was certain of this. Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong looked at each other, thinking that Lu Chang'an had inquired about it, but they were both surprised and disappointed. Although there were many beauties in Huda, those who were near the water and the towers had to win first. Whether it's 10 or 100, I already have a wife. Qin's Haiqiang took out his mobile phone, opened the game, and waved it in front of the other three people. Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong laughed, and the dormitory was filled with the atmosphere of joy due to the existence of Fiazai. Qin's Haiqiang didn't care about their laughter. Instead, he looked a little pleased with himself and turned around to play his own game. Lu Chang'an also laughed, but since it has nothing to do with law and morality, why is it so difficult for ordinary people to realize that no one's fun is inferior to their own? Where does the sense of superiority come from? We have too many monks and too little food. Our male counselor seems to be named Yu General. I think he wants to chase teacher Qin. Sun Shutong turned around and asked Lu Chang'an, does your cousin have a boyfriend? No. Yu Zhen has no chance, right? Wei Xuanyi also asked Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an nodded, then frowned. Do you have a girlfriend? Wei Xuanyi asked next. Lu Chang'an still nodded. Does it look good? Sun Shutong also looked very interested. Among the four of us, you are the only one who has a girlfriend. Wei Xuanyi is a tall boy who likes to play basketball, but he doesn't have a girlfriend. Number one in the world, Lu Chang'an said while looking at his mobile phone. Qin's Haiqiang raised his head and glanced at Lu Chang'an. As expected, there were everyone in college. It was still very different from high school. He unexpectedly met a roommate who could pretend to be 13. Sun Shutong and Wei Xuanyi also laughed, and Lu Chang'an also looked at them and laughed. After staying in the dormitory for a while, chatting about the beauties and anecdotes of Hunan University, some expectations for college life, mixed with various novels, movies, and games, it was soon time for lunch. Lu Chang'an sent his address to An Nuan, and when he went downstairs with the three of them, An Nuan was already waiting for them downstairs. So the four of them saw a beautiful girl, number one in the world, downstairs, standing on the basketball court in front of the dormitory building, waving to them. That is what the most beautiful first love should look like. She is tall and not as delicate as the girl next door. She seems to have to be taken care of at all times. Her arms are straight and there is no need to put them on her shoulders. She is holding her boyfriend's neck, and her wrists are softly placed together. Her legs are close together, as round and white as peeled bamboo shoots. If she stands on tiptoes, she will definitely make her look up when she raises her head. When he pursed his lips with hazy eyes, it was like a scene in a dream that made people unable to breathe. She may not be truly number one in the world in any aspect, but she will make those who see her sincerely sigh. Can such a girl meet someone more beautiful in reality? Qin's Haiqiang was the first to come to his senses. He muttered words such as Teresa is the cutest in the world and walked to the cafeteria. Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong were still standing next to Lu Chang'an. Their eyes slowly turned to Lu Chang'an. Could it be, really? An Nuan saw Lu Chang'an standing with the two idiots looking at her. She felt slightly shy and walked over with her hands clasped behind her back. She waved her hand generously and said hello, hi, are you Lu Chang'an's classmates? I am his girlfriend. I told them that my girlfriend was number one in the world, but they didn't believe me. Lu Chang'an told the story. Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong were both a little embarrassed. The more beautiful the girl, the more she smiled. But when there was a hint of joking in her smile, it would make people nervous and want to explain quickly. There seems to be no explanation. It is unbelievable that Lu Chang'an's girlfriend is so beautiful. Wei Xuanyi looked at An Nuan's Converse co-branded high-top shoes, then Lu Chang'an's cloth shoes, and his own AJ1S. It seemed like he and An Nuan were a better match. Every boy who wears AJ1 hopes to find a girlfriend who wears co-branded white shoes. An Nuan went to eat with Lu Chang'an, said hello to Qin Yanan, who was so busy that he didn't seem to have time to eat, and left. Why did you take the initiative to expose my hidden girlfriend today? An Nuan was in a good mood. A girl is in a good mood when her boyfriend brings her out to others and thinks that she has not embarrassed him. All good. When did I hide you? Lu Chang'an was very confused. There is not a single story related to my girlfriend in the space. The last 8 stories are, the sky and the earth are dark and yellow, the universe is vast, the sun and the moon are waxing, and the stars are arranged. The cold comes and the summer goes, the autumn harvests and the winter hides, the leap year becomes a year old, and the law Lu Tiao Yang, do you look like a lunatic, posting sentence after sentence of 1,000-character essay? Fortunately, I posted these and then stopped posting them. I am embarrassed to tell others that this is my boyfriend's space. And Nuan immediately said Lu Chang'an's charges were found. Many times, a man thinks that there is nothing wrong with some of his things, or that she doesn't notice or care, but in fact, she just doesn't say anything. I just test the recording media and methods of the new era. I often think about the fact that the 19th century was no longer actively recalled by living people, but was expressed. This is no different from previous eras, but in cultural life the narrative is extraordinary in history, even completely different from that of the 18th century. The forms and mechanisms of its expression are mostly derived from its own inventions in the 19th century, such as museums, national archives, national libraries. The definition of the West referred to here, I personally think that the earliest national library was in the Western Han Dynasty, which also included photography, social statistics, and film. I am thinking that the 19th century was the era of initial systematization of memory, so will the 21st century not only systematize, but also form what about the era of complete internet, digital media, and social platform memory? Lu Chang'an continued thoughtfully, as an observer of the world, it is very important to me to determine how an era is remembered. Is this the reason why you post nonsense in this space and your girlfriend has no sense of existence at all? And Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an very calmly. If anyone were ordinary people, they would have been confused by Lu Chang'an, who seemed professional and serious, but in fact was completely nonsense. Bullshit. Kung Fu was shocked. What are we having for lunch today? Humph. Unless you show off your affection, I won't eat. And Nuan peeked at Lu Chang'an's performance angrily. If you don't eat, what will you eat? Lu Chang'an pointed to the grass. Sheep, sheep, sheep. This was the reason An Nuan made fun of Bai Hui that day. An Nuan was funny and angry, and she hit Lu Chang'an many times. An Nuan is too lazy to care about this matter. Some people want to post some interactions between themselves and their lovers every day. In fact, An Nuan feels that they are very insecure and trustful of each other. An Nuan knows that she and Lu Chang'an do not need, but she is a girl, so after all she likes this, just once in a while is fine. There are more discounts than usual during the limited time, and Xiahua should be the only one. I was supposed to have 6 in 1 today, but I was still awakened by the temptation. Today, 3 in 1, tomorrow, 3 in 1, and the day after tomorrow, 3 in 1, so as not to say I lost the regular daily updates. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Siahua. Chapter 278. The two went to the canteen to eat together, and An Nuan told Lu Chang'an the characteristics of each canteen. The second cafeteria is cheap and delicious. The braised pork and crock pot soup on the second floor of the apartment cafeteria are very good. The sixth cafeteria is very clean. When An Nuan and Hans Hizzi's two professors' mothers didn't go home to prepare meals, he travels around major canteens and is a well-known diner in all the canteens of Hunan University. Lu Chang'an soon understood what famous meant. The apartment cafeteria that An Nuan and Lu Chang'an went to today. What are Nuan eating today? Hey, could it be that you have become a student of our school today? An uncle who looked like a meatball saw An Nuan and greeted An Nuan casually, and then suddenly thought of something and left. Yes, please take care of Uncle Fatty in the future. An Nuan smiled cutely. What are you eating today? Let me tell you, today's braised pork is good, not fat or thin, just right. I ran out of soy sauce and replaced it with a bottle of Lao Henghe, the fat uncle said with a smile. Then braised pork, by the way, this is my boyfriend. And Nuan pointed at Lu Chang'an. Understood, the fat uncle glanced at Lu Chang'an and nodded. What do you know? When Lu Chang'an was picking up food, he found that he and An Nuan had significantly more food than other students. And, this is my boyfriend. An Nuan took Lu Chang'an to prepare vegetarian dishes. Okay, it's a perfect match. Fat aunt, who is as fat uncle, also gave them the treatment they agreed to. After preparing the vegetarian dishes, a master chef could lift the lid of the earthen pot of soup and picked out two for An Nuan and Lu Chang'an. The connections in the cafeteria in college are really useful. Lu Chang'an did not expect that the first interesting thing he and An Nuan did in college was that she introduced him to the chefs in the cafeteria. Why are you so familiar with the people in the cafeteria? Lu Chang'an asked with a smile. When he was here, the apartment building here had not been built yet, so naturally there was no apartment cafeteria. In the past, management was not as strict as it is now. After Zhizhi and I played games in the computer room, we went to the cafeteria to eat. Of course we got to know each other the more we came there. And Nuan said, a little embarrassed, actually, it's mainly me. She has been very beautiful since she was a child, and uncles and aunts at this age like pretty and cute little girls. Honest Lu Chang'an agreed that she described herself as a beautiful and cute little girl, unlike some girls who like to post selfies endlessly and always say that they are not good looking, ugly, and pretentious. And Nuan carefully checked Lu Chang'an's eye expression and tone, but there was still no way to determine whether he was sarcastic. It was difficult to tell whether this person was sincerely admiring or mildly sarcastic. The most important thing is that in Lu Chang'an's eyes, he was the image of climbing trees and walls when he was younger. He said that he was beautiful and cute, although this was true, Lu Chang'an may not think so. By the way, what were you doing in the apartment building just now? Helping your cousin, An Nuan asked. Why am I so diligent? Lu Chang'an recognized himself very clearly. She helped me arrange a dormitory. Aren't you a day student? An Nuan took a sip of soup in confusion. It's just a place to rest occasionally. Living in a dormitory means breathing the air, athlete's foot, body odor, and fermentation gases exhaled by others in a closed space. Occasionally, I don't mind it very much, but if you think about it carefully, you will have to live there for a few years. I don't know how many nights. I still feel unacceptable. Lu Chang'an shook his head. In summer like this, if the air conditioner is turned on and the bedroom is closed for a long time, the smell will not be good. People like Lu Chang'an, who always have trees at their door and windows, don't like to get used to living, sleeping, and eating with others. That's true, but you really can't think about many things carefully. It's quite offensive when you say that. An Nuan laughed. In fact, most people don't mind this question, or don't think about the interview. Right. and Nuan put the braised pork in her bowl into Lu Chang'an's bowl and exchanged vegetarian dishes with him while thinking about the problem. You mean, you won't get used to living under the same roof with others? After all, the atmosphere of another person's life will make you uncomfortable, and Nuan couldn't help but asked implicitly, even though it was a relatively distant question, but I still want to ask it. If it were you, I would like it very much, Lu Chang'an smiled. And Nuan straightened her waist reservedly, pursed her lips to prevent her shy smile from appearing, and poured all the braised pork in her bowl to Lu Chang'an. Actually, it's not necessary at all. For example, after class in the morning, if there are classes in the 5th, 6th, and 7th periods in the afternoon, you can come to my house to rest. You can take a nap in my bed and I will sleep in my mother's bed, and Nuan suggested Road. Then how can I sleep? Lu Chang'an shook his head. Warm and shy. You tricked me into your bed. What do you want to do to me? Don't do this. It's too obvious that your intentions are evil, Lu Chang'an said seriously. And Nuan slowly raised her head, letting Lu Chang'an see her fierce expression. It's so cute, like an angry cat. Lu Chang'an reached out and pinched Nuan's nose. And Nuan turned her head and opened her mouth to bite, but Lu Chang'an nimbly dodged it. I also remembered something, and Nuan originally planned to sit over and beat Lu Chang'an, but after all, it was a public place, so she forgot about it. There was a very important thing that she almost didn't mention. Baewei is very close to your biology school, just across the street. It's on the same street, and she lives on campus. In other words, if she goes to self-study, she will probably go to the same library or the self-study room in the teaching building as your college most often. You are also from our biology school. I am. The most basic, simple, and ancient phenomenon in the application of biotechnology is biological fermentation. The brewing of vinegar is biological fermentation. You are so professional in making vinegar and acid, so of course you are from our school of biology. You mean I'm making trouble unreasonably? And Nuan said angrily. Lu Chang'an's attitude was very inappropriate. I didn't say you were being unreasonable. Women really have different understanding circuits than men. Lu Chang'an just said that she was jealous. Oh, I'm so annoyed. I won't eat anymore. Okay, I'll grab some grass and bring it back to you later. Don't go hungry. And Nuan finally sat over and beat Lu Chang'an's arm for 10 minutes. After dinner, and Nuan accompanied Lu Chang'an downstairs and chatted with Qin Yanan for a while at the orientation point. After enough students who looked like students from the School of Biology saw her holding Lu Chang'an's arm, she finished and went to take the bus opposite. The car is gone. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Chang'an went to the classroom with the other 3 people in the dormitory. The School of Biology only had 2 undergraduate majors, biotechnology and biomedical engineering, which was very small compared with other colleges. Your girlfriend may not be the best in the world, Wei Xuanyi said to Lu Chang'an provocatively as he walked to the door of the School of Biology. Lu Chang'an will not be swayed by other people's provocations. You will know when you enter the classroom, Sun Shutong said with certainty. Qin's Haiqiang held the phone and smiled, with a gentle look on his face. I have a cold and a headache today, and the limited exemption is over. As the author who is most active in updating the limited exemption, please give me some monthly votes. Hey, stop it, I'll pee myself. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 279. The School of Biology of Xiang University is an independent single building in the shape of a back, surrounded by trees. There is a large wall decorated with red bricks on the front and floor-to-ceiling glass windows in other places. It was built in 2010 by the Life Sciences of Xiang University. It was formed by merging with the Institute of Technology and the Center for Biomedical Engineering. In the entire Hunan University, the School of Biology is considered a small one, but it still has some strength. When the freshmen walked into the building, What they saw were the introductions of the school's signature professors and experts. Lu Chang'an glanced over and still felt there are several names that I have heard and known at Hunan University more than 20 years ago. Of course, these people will not come to teach freshmen now. The freshmen were a little quieter when they walked into the unfamiliar courtyard building that would become the main place for study and research in the future. They followed the instructions and walked to the class study rooms divided into each grade. Although there are not many girls in our school of biology, I heard that the quality is good, and girls studying science are easier to deal with. They don't have the pretentiousness of most girls. Wei Xuanyi is still paying attention to these things, and it is probably true. Those who don't have a girlfriend are very focused on solving their personal single problems in college. Is there a difference? Qin's Haiqiang asked suspiciously. You have to consider one issue. People change due to the influence of the environment. When they were in high school, the ratio of men to women was basically normal, or if there were too few girls, it would not be deformed. The environment, and here we are now, there are dozens of people in a class, a few girls, then there must be a lot of liquors to make them think they are noble. Wei Xuanyi obviously had not thought about this issue and looked at Qin's Haiqiang with admiration. Qin's Haiqiang continued to play his own game. Sun Shutong glanced at Lu Chang'an, who was always smiling next to him, and said, Lu Chang'an, you have a girlfriend, so naturally this matter has nothing to do with you. Yes, Lu Chang'an also thought so. How did you get your girlfriend to be so beautiful? Wei Xuanyi asked again. Attract each other. This beautiful girl in our class will make it difficult for your girlfriend to sit on the throne of the school bell, Sun Shutong said with great certainty. Generally speaking, no school really ranks some school bells, but there is always a beauty who is recognized as the most popular. In the past few years, there have been several girls who have become popular on the internet or played roles in popular movies and TV series, so the title of Campus Beauty of Hunan University has attracted some attention. Yes, you haven't joined our class group yet, right? She has also joined, and many classmates have gone to see her space, tisk tisk tisk. Wei Xuanyi said with emotion. If your adjectives for beautiful women are just tisk tisk tisk, you have little hope of finding a girlfriend. Lu Chang'an also sighed with emotion. The photos have all been photoshopped, they can't be accurate. Qin's Haiqiang shook his head. Don't think too beautiful now. Other students have seen her. They all say she is more beautiful in person than in the photos. Talking about this beautiful new classmate, they gathered with classmates from other dormitories and walked to the classroom where they were gathered. Lu Chang'an and others came relatively late, and the classroom was almost full. Wei Xuanyi was the first to walk into the classroom. He did not look around, but looked straight ahead. After a pause, Sun Shutong behind him pushed him, then stiffly twisted his neck and continued walking forward. Sun Shutong's body also paused for a moment, and he was pushed by Qin's Haiqiang from behind. He was holding his neck and his heart was pounding. Lu Chang'an did not push Qin's Haiqiang. Qin's Haiqiang looked a little excited and walked into the classroom muttering the beautiful girl who broke through the dimensional wall in a low voice. Lu Chang'an was the last one to enter the classroom. Looking at the three guys walking slowly to find seats, he smiled and said, I'm blinding you. What do you mean? Wei Xuanyi was stunned for a moment. Lu Chang'an was undoubtedly objecting to their words that they thought the beautiful girl in the class could shake Nuan's status as the school belle. That beautiful girl was sitting alone in the front row on the left side of the classroom. Her whole body seemed to be exuding fairy spirit. Her skin was flawless and as fresh as a bud that had been sprayed with water mist in the greenhouse. Her whole body was clean and not stained by a trace of dust. In what way is his temperament inferior to that of Nuan? What's more, there are rumors in the class that this eldest lady comes to school by helicopter, which shocked everyone. Nowadays, it is not uncommon for people to drive supercars to school, and there are very few people who fly by helicopter. Although most people the price of some helicopters is not as good as those of super sports cars. Lu Chang'an. I'll help you occupy the seat, Zhu Huntang waved proudly when she saw Lu Chang'an. She asked Qin Yanan not to tell Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an must not have thought that she had become his classmate. Lu Chang'an sat over and turned around to greet his roommates. Wei Xuanyi and the other two stared at Lu Chang'an dumbfounded, and followed them slowly, because there were only a few seats in the class, and only the beautiful girl who knew Lu Chang'an was around. For some reason, everyone had empty seats and no one came out. Go sit. The three people sat down. There were no looks of surprise at how they dared to sit down. Instead, there were some looks of envy for their position. It made people understand that it was not that these seats were inaccessible, but that the boys who had just graduated from high school were shy. She is close to a young lady whose temperament cannot be harmonized with that of ordinary students in every aspect. You didn't expect that we are classmates. Zhu Huntang continued to be proud, placing his hands squarely on the table, feet together, and sitting upright, like an obedient primary school student. No. Then what do you think? Zhu Huntang couldn't help but ask. Of course she wanted to see Lu Chang'an surprised, and all kinds of emotions, otherwise what's the point? No. Zhu Huntang was greatly disappointed. His hands were still placed squarely on the table, as if they were stuck with glue, but his head turned a little sideways. In the future, we can go to school together and go home from school together, and I can let you ride in my helicopter, Zhu Huntang said generously. I walk. Where's An Nuan? Isn't An Nuan in the same class as you? Zhu Huntang finally stopped putting his hands on the table like glue and turned sideways to look around. Only then did Lu Chang'an react in a big way. He reached out his hand and pressed her face, pushing her back to the position where she was sitting upright just now. Why aren't you in the same class as An Nuan? Let Yaya help you arrange it. Zhu Huntang didn't take it seriously. Lu Chang'an always thought that he was a saint and would be impure if others touched her. Do you think Xiongda University is run by your family? Lu Chang'an knocked on the table. Please be quiet, you talk so much. Zhu Huntang rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an, then folded her hands and placed them across the desk, quietly motionless, exuding the aura of a fairy just like she did before Lu Chang'an came in. I'm still catching a cold today, but I'm feeling better and will make up for it. Please be patient and I wish you all a happier and more awesome life after the Mid-Autumn Festival. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 280. Lu Chang'an felt someone tapping his shoulder from behind, and left the table he was leaning against. He turned around and saw Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong sitting together, with Qin's Haiqiang sitting a little further back. It was Wei Xuanyi who ordered Lu Chang'an. You know her too? Wei Xuanyi looked envious. While peeking at the upright fairy sitting there, he lowered his voice and spoke to Lu Chang'an. When you only have 10 yuan, it's hard to make 100 million, but when you've already made 100 million, it's not that hard to make another 100 million. Lu Chang'an looked at Wei Xuanyi's blank eyes and said straightforwardly. Di explained, when you meet a beautiful girl, you have the opportunity to meet a group of beautiful girls, because many of the beautiful girls' friends are also beautiful girls. Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong couldn't help but look at Lu Chang'an again. The mobile phone Lu Chang'an was using was an ordinary Android phone. He was also wearing very ordinary clothes. His shoes were hard to see on the feet of young people. The freshman who had just entered school did not have much vision for people in high school. The difference is nothing more than checking whether the mobile phone is a new model of iPhone, whether the clothes are fashionable brands, whether the shoes are fashionable shoes, AJ Coconut, and other co-branded products. But Lu Chang'an's conversation and temperament are really not as immature as other freshmen, which gives Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong a very different feeling. Maybe it is the light of the young lady next to him that shines on him. Most people will think so, since how could he get to know such an extraordinary and beautiful young lady? If he was a guy living in a Tongza building, how could he have the opportunity to get in touch with her? Class solidification has not yet truly formed, but the existence of classes and the barriers between classes exist objectively. As a freshman at a key university with an above-average IQ, as long as you are not a nerd, it is normal to realize this. Then your family must have 100 million, Sun Shutong said with some confusion, with a hint of joking. I'm an orphan, Lu Chang'an turned around. How could he have a family? Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shu looked at each other. Normally no one would joke about this kind of thing, right? Zhu Huntang raised a hand and moved his neck flexibly. Are you here to imitate a primary school student today? Zhou Dongdong doesn't look like a primary school student like you. Lu Chang'an knew that she meant to raise her hand to apply for a speech. Have you seen, the whole class, except you, everyone likes me and thinks I am a fairy. Zhu Huntang heard some of the conversation behind her, and she didn't care whether she looked like a primary school student. If she said like a primary school student, that primary school student is equal to Zhou Dongdong, and Zhou Dongdong is equal to cute, then it is equivalent to saying that Zhu Huntang is cute. They're all blind. Bah, are you the only one who has the right aesthetic concept? Others are blind if they are different from you. Zhu Huntang found that coming to school was a good thing. She made a lot of preparations and performed perfectly today. Having more people does not mean that they are right. The vast majority of people in this world, regardless of intelligence, aesthetic taste, physical quality, psychological quality, or even genetic quality, are hovering on the edge of the elimination line in natural evolution. Lu Chang'an does not think that, said happily. What does this have to do with me being a fairy? Zhu Huntang didn't know what he was talking about. In addition to people wandering on the edge of the natural evolutionary elimination line, there are some people who have relatively excellent abilities in a certain field. These abilities of this group of people can support the normal operation of society. But the problem is that this group of people often have a misunderstanding, thinks that he is relatively good in his own professional field, so he is used to it as a source of confidence, and he is also keen to give pointers in other aspects. We generally call it self-confidence that we don't know where it comes from. Lu Chang'an glanced at Zhu Huntang. Just like our classmates, they are all relatively good in a single field, but that doesn't mean there are no problems with their aesthetics. What he said was too long. Zhu Huntang was stunned for a moment and didn't quite understand. He blinked and ignored Lu Chang'an. I'm a fairy anyway. You are really a fairy? Lu Chang'an didn't want to pay attention to her. At this time, people have expired, and seats are basically allocated in dormitory units in the classroom. Lu Chang'an is certain that Zhu Huntang will not stay in the dormitory. Even if Qinyanan arranges a bed for her to rest, she will not want it, but there's no telling whether she'll get a single suite. For a university like Hunan University, special students like Zhu Huntang may not be able to do whatever they want in school if they have money, but as long as the requirements are not too excessive, they may not be unable to meet them. Qinyanan walked into the classroom. Today is not her first day at work. In fact, as a counselor, she has already started to get in touch with some of the work and faculty of Hunan University during the summer vacation. She will not be busy dealing with it now, so when she walked into the classroom, there was no nervousness or first-time unfamiliarity. Qinyanan was specially equipped with a pair of glasses. Lindbergh, who is relatively popular in price and popularity among niche brands, Zhu Huntang gave her a pair of sparkling glasses inlaid with diamonds. Qinyanan did not ask for them, not because she wanted to be low-key, but glasses that are too gorgeous are difficult to match with clothes. She comes to work every day, so she can't wear them just like attending a dinner party. Of course, the lenses are flat, just to make the whole person's temperament more integrated into the campus environment. Qinyanan saw Zhu Huntang and Lu Chang'an sitting together at first sight, which was a bit surprising. She thought that Lu Chang'an would automatically sit diagonally across from Zhu Huntang when he saw Zhu Huntang, Qin Yinan looked at the number of people, and then it dawned on me that the classroom was full and Lu Chang'an probably didn't have any seats to choose from. Baozhun Group donated a digital library building to Xiongnan University. Zhu Huntang's admission will naturally be no problem. Such a donation is not only for Zhu Huntang's admission, but in fact it is more of a support for the local government and feedback for political achievements. It is also of great benefit to the corporate image of Baozhun Group. Investment in education and charity is necessary for any large enterprise. Zhu Huntang naturally had someone from Xiang University to take charge of the contact, and she didn't bother Qin Yinan too much. Qin Yinan stood on the podium, and the audience naturally became quiet. Qin Yinan couldn't help but glance at Lu Chang'an and found that he was sitting on the ground with an old look, as if he was looking ahead in a wandering world. He remembered what he had learned in the attached middle school. He was also like this in high school. Fortunately, for students in college, I don't mind if my eyes are unfocused and empty in the classroom, as long as the person is there and not sleeping on my stomach. Every class of 2017 students majoring in biotechnology in the School of Biology, welcome to you. Congratulations on completing a small goal in your life and being able to study and live in the Millennium University. At the same time, I hope you can afford to be the only one who has talents. What an honor. This sentence is rooted in the cultural spirit of the people of southern Hunan, having no one to rely on, going alone, and who will this spirit remind you of? A few voices rang out from under the podium, and they read out the name that everyone expected. Yes, this spirit can be traced back to the representative of Hunan and Chu culture, starting from Chu Yuan, who was exiled to Hunan for 10 years. It was inherited by a large number of descendants of the Hunan cultural spirit such as Zhou Dunyi, Hunan School, Wang Chuanshan, Wei Yuan, Guo Songtao, etc., until with Tan Sitong, Tang Sichang, Huang Xing, Caie, Chen Tianhua, etc., they sang endlessly. In the past, many outstanding talents from Hunan and Hunan were involved in academics. Even with the deep national crisis in modern times, the spirit of the children of Hunan burst out with more passionate blood and burned. I hope that you will learn more than just knowledge at the university, and the most important thing is a kind of spirit. And the university you choose has its backing on the Green Mountains where loyal bones are buried. I hope you can be infected by the awe-inspiring righteousness they have retained. In the future, no matter what industry you are in or where you are, don't let down the heroes and patriots who watched you learn. After Qin Yinan finished speaking, Lu Chang'an clapped, and the applause rang out, reverberating enthusiastically. Zhu Huntang was particularly enthusiastic, although she was not very affected. I am your counselor Qin Yinan. You can contact me for any matters related to life and study in the future. This is my WeChat. Qin Yinan wrote his WeChat number on the blackboard. Please note your student ID and name when adding me. Everyone took out their mobile phones and took note of it. What made people sigh was that for a super beauty like Teacher Qin, there were countless rich second-generation elites out there trying their best to get her number. It was convenient to be a student. Teacher Qin looks young, and the teacher-student relationship is a bit dreamy, but he still doesn't allow people to make the move. Now let's introduce ourselves and get to know each other. Let's start over there. Qin Yinan pointed to Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang is ready. She walked up to the podium briskly and gracefully while holding up her skirt. When Qin Yinan crossed paths with her and walked off the podium, he whispered to her not to say weird words. Zhu Huntang felt that Qin Yinan thought of her as too childish. Would she say strange things at such a time? Now that he has chosen this university, Zhu Huntang will of course take it seriously. Hello, classmates, I am Zhu Huntang, the bamboo of bamboos, the king of gentlemen, and the tang of begonia. I am from across the Taiwan Strait. I am a Taiwanese. I support reunification. I know that everyone can afford tea, eggs and instant noodles. No one is watching. I also know that there are many more advanced places on the mainland, and Taiwan is not as backward and useless as everyone thinks. I hope to spend a happy college life with everyone. Zhu Huntang made a heart sign with his hands and smiled. He said, besides, I am a fairy and I don't want a boyfriend. After Zhu Huntang finished speaking, he walked off the stage. When Zhu Huntang mentioned the jokes about tea, eggs and instant noodles, there was a lot of knowing laughter in the classroom, but the last sentence was obviously a bit surprising, although most people didn't think it had anything to do with whether Zhu Huntang found a boyfriend or not. Relationship, but it still makes people feel a little disappointed. How can such a beautiful girl not find a boyfriend? However, some people feel very comfortable. Otherwise, if such a beautiful classmate is chased by someone else, they will inevitably feel sour and jealous as to why the pig that grabbed the cabbage is not them. Some people disagree. Nowadays, there are many people in universities who don't have boyfriends to show off that they are dedicated to studying. Shouldn't they look for them by then? Qin Yan'an gestured to Lu Chang'an as the next person to introduce himself to the stage. Lu Chang'an walked up to the podium with brisk steps and a warm smile on his face. Hello everyone, my name is Lu Chang'an. There is an example from Zhu Huntang. Just when everyone was waiting for what Lu Chang'an would say next, Lu Chang'an smiled again to show friendship and walked off the stage. Even Qin Yan'an was stunned for a moment, and then motioned to Sun Shutong in the back row to continue. Lu Chang'an sat back in his seat and did not take out his mobile phone under the table like many students did. He is not the kind of person who has to take out his mobile phone and do random things when he doesn't know what he is doing, or when he knows what he is doing. I've said so much, just say one thing, and others will think that I love to show off myself. Zhu Huntang also wanted to hear how Lu Chang'an introduced himself. Zhu Huntang was even secretly drafting "Hello everyone, I am Lu Chang'an. I am an old immortal monster. I like beautiful girls, but I don't like fairies. I'm a fool, an old fool." Show off, she had a northern accent, and Lu Chang'an didn't argue with her. She actually loved to show off. I learned it from Qin Yan, and Zhu Huntang lowered his voice. You see, he talks freely, smiles, and is generous and prepared. So I applaud enthusiastically. Lu Chang'an applauded enthusiastically. Lu Chang'an took the lead. Every student would applaud after introducing themselves, so inevitably some people would be nervous and compare. What if I go on stage and the applause is sparse? I'm not as enthusiastic as the people in front of me. Am I not performing well? Fortunately, there is always Lu Chang'an there to applaud enthusiastically, so that students who are poor at speaking and expressing themselves can also receive noisy applause. Zhu Huntang patted him enthusiastically for a while, then he felt that the palms of his little hands were red. He could no longer pretend to be so enthusiastic, and turned to glare at Lu Chang'an. As expected, he is always thick-skinned, and this man's pretentious skills are not ordinary. Far beyond yourself. How about we set up a club for the Kyushu Fenglai sword sect? Zhu Huntang pulled Lu Chang'an and asked him not to focus on applauding. It was so boring to sit here. Chatting with the beautiful girl kept her from being too bored. Of course, Zhu Huntang also knew that if Lu Chang'an had this kind of consciousness, he would have been taken back by her and become her subordinate. Oh, what a beautiful and innocent dream it was back then. The Federation of Students and Social Sciences will not approve it. Lu Chang'an shook his head. He still knew himself. Does the Student Association count as a banana? Zhu Huntang dismissed it. I already know the principal very well, so I asked him to approve a note for me. Zhu Huntang is too lazy to deal with the minions below because he can find the real person who is talking about the matter. For example, the Zhu family's joint opening in the mainland is not to expand locally. The people below do need to be dealt with, but that is the big boss who has a high position. Is this what the lady is going to do? What are you doing with this thing? Lu Chang'an certainly has no interest in the club. What he needs is a library, a laboratory, and new equipment. Let's play. Zhu Huntang thought of something else. By the way, our organization, How about letting Zhou Dongdong be a saint? Or an elite gang or something? Zhu Huntang even helped Zhou Dongdong think about the superpowers required to join the organization. They are especially delicious. Lu Chang'an couldn't stand her constant noise and glared, "If you talk again, I will expel you from the sword gate." After Zhu Huntang glared back, she folded her hands together and put them on the desk again. What was a little strange was that she saw on TV that students from the mainland always had this posture in class. Why didn't everyone else do the same? When you see the word explosion on the bookshelf, click on the ellipses there to see Kidian activity prompts, or click on the blue link below the author's words. Please give Xiahua a like, so that Kidian will post after the outbreak. There are more monthly red envelopes for this book. This is an event that started after September 30th, not today. Xiahua challenges 15,000 words per day. During the double monthly pass period, she hopes to get 10,000 monthly passes. Those who order more than 10,000 will be double times. This is not too ambitious. Let us go and look. Return the 3-in-1 first tomorrow. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 281. The class meeting that was originally planned to last 1 hour took a little longer, mainly because some students were very eloquent. In addition to introducing themselves, they also introduced the human geography and history of the province where they were born. In their words, only Chu is talented, so why is that? I am very unconvinced, but if I really want to calculate it, the two people who have made the greatest contributions to ordinary people in modern times and who are closest to gods and saints were both born in southern Hunan, which adds a lot of confidence to Lushan Academy's sect. If you are not convinced, then don't be convinced. What the sages wanted was a world where everyone could be unconvinced. Those who can enter Hunan University must at least be people with decent studies and brains. Science students have official positions and opinions on many historical events. The explanation of meaning may not be as clear as that of liberal arts students, but it is no problem to be knowledgeable and talk about the past and the present. Qin Yan'an started by introducing the atmosphere of southern Hunan. Many people brought up their hometowns to compete implicitly, and praised many everyone knows about great people. Only one person has the feeling of increasing his knowledge. There are so many powerful people. They sound like they are great. Why don't I recognize any of them? If I could only talk about Jing Kei's assassination of King Qin, wouldn't it be a bit unfair? After the class meeting, the names of a few outstanding students should be remembered by the most classmates. Most of them are so-so. Dozens of classmates can only get to know each other gradually in the future. How can they remember them all at once? Nowadays, high school students have accepted the view that college is the most important period for building connections. After the classmate group is established, they all participate in it. This is also the main way for students in the current class to get familiar with each other. The way of communicating with classmates 20 years ago has still changed somewhat. After the disbandment, Lu Chang'an planned to go home. Qin Yan'an has been busy with work these days. En Nuan has been appointed as the girl in charge. She will probably be the squad leader after military training. This is also foreseeable. Most of the counselors, their qualifications are relatively junior, so there is no reason not to give Professor Lu Yuwang face. Whether it is the appointment of class cadres or the student union of the school, En Nuan's chances are much greater than other students. Bai Hui pulled Lu Chang'an and En Nuan into a class reunion, which was full of freshmen who used to be in the high school affiliated and are now at Hunan University. They were alumni before and are still alumni now. This reason can draw a circle of people to form a group. A small social circle. Bai Hui is as enthusiastic about this kind of thing as ever. After En Nuan entered, he greeted everyone, and Lu Chang'an set the group to accept the group assistant without reminding. It is quiet now. After leaving the classroom, everyone dispersed. Enthusiastic local students wanted to take the new students around Junsha. There were also students who came to school with nothing but a school bag and planned to go shopping in supermarkets. There were also students who met with their fellow students. Some want to continue walking around the Siang University campus, while others plan to go back to their dormitories. Lu Chang'an, let's have hot pot together tonight. The hot pot in southern Hunan is quite famous, right? Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong followed Lu Chang'an. Qin's Haiqiang was also there, with his hands in his pockets and no longer holding his mobile phone. He glanced at Zhu Huntang from time to time. When people in southern Hunan eat hot pot, they usually eat Sichuan and Chongqing hot pot, Chaoshan beef hot pot, Laobijie mutton hot pot. Lu Chang'an shook his head. You can try the dry pot that the locals often eat. Eat the vegetables first, then eat after finishing the dishes, pour the soup and then cook the messy things. That's okay, call a few more people, and we'll eat the dry pot you mentioned. I'll treat you, Wei Xuanyi said generously. Sun Shutong also looked at Lu Chang'an expectantly, and could not forget Lu Chang'an's words, all the friends of beautiful girls are beautiful girls. I don't know if Lu Chang'an knows the way. We are not very familiar with each other yet, and it is difficult for Wei Xuanyi to expose him directly and ask Lu Chang'an to call a few more girls. Now the whole class is unfamiliar. If he calls a few more people, he won't know who to call in the class, right? Then you will definitely be recognized by yourself. Then it is very likely that he will bring Zhu Huntang and call a few beautiful girls who may also be from Hunan University. I love dry pot. Zhu Huntang was originally waiting for Lu Chang'an to see if he wanted to fly her helicopter back. Of course the helicopter couldn't stop at his house, but she could go to Bailong Center first. The helipad in Building 1, then he can jump off the building or take the elevator back. When he heard about the dry pot party, Zhu Huntang wanted to experience this kind of class activity. Okay, let's go together. Wei Xuanyi couldn't wait for Lu Chang'an to answer. If Zhu Huntang is gone, then who cares about Lu Chang'an? Even if he calls other beautiful girls, can he compare with Zhu Huntang? Then I'll arrange a reception in the restaurant. Zhu Huntang picked up the phone and went to find Zhongcheng. Which restaurant? Wei Xuanyi felt a certain momentum from Zhu Huntang's words, arranging restaurant reception. He lowered his voice, not wanting to show too much cowardice, but Lu Chang'an could hear his voice. Lu Chang'an didn't say anything, and Sun Shutong rolled his eyes and remained calm. Anyway, at first he said that it was Wei Xuanyi who wanted to treat him. Everyone, let's Qin's Haiqiang made a heavenly voice. This is fine, I'll invite you next time. Wei Xuanyi quickly followed Qin's Haiqiang's words and stepped down. Zhu Huntang had already finished the phone call. He looked at his new classmates with a gentle smile and the elegance of a wealthy lady. The students are invited to dine in my own private restaurant, which is not open to the public. Should I go there in the future, when I'm a guest at your house, do I still have to pay for a meal? Of course not, of course not. Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong waved their hands together and smiled. It turns out that the kind of rich and wealthy young ladies who only exist in novels and TV series are so easy to deal with in reality, and they are not aggressive or arrogant at all. You guys go, I better go back, I want to play games. Qin's Haiqiang touched his greasy hair, feeling a little uncomfortable, turned around and left. Seeing Qin's Haiqiang leaving, Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong were not disappointed and waved their hands. Leave him alone, he is just a fat bastard. Of course Zhu Huntang didn't care if there was one more person or one less person, he just looked at Lu Chang'an. I'm not going. Lu Chang'an was even less interested in attending such a dinner. Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong were overjoyed. Although Lu Chang'an had a girlfriend, he still felt vaguely threatening. Then let's go. Shall we take a helicopter there together? Sun Shutong asked, trying his best to be neither humble nor arrogant in front of the eldest lady, and his tone was calm, as if he was talking about taking a taxi together. Where is the helicopter parked? Wei Xuanyi was a little curious. Zhu Huntang turned around and walked forward with a cold expression. There will be another chapter later, updated around 2:30.